At one high school somewhere in this world, the delinquents had their eyes on one student whom they always bullied. This boy didn't have the courage to fight back, and he hated himself for it. Aside from himself, he also hated the people who turned a blind eye to it as well. Those people who let him feel all this pain, even though they could do something about it. But on top of all that, he also hated the bullies just as much as his pathetic self. That is why day and night, he always wished for a chance to redo this life, and it seems like he did. So when he got summoned to a different world, he thought this was his chance to redeem himself and get back to work. But it seems like he is now the new Messiah, also known as Yamato Takeru. But it seems like that is not the case anymore. This alternate world had an existence called the Demon Lord. Due to its power, the people started to get scared of it, and eventually their lives suffered in the long run. So as he thinks deeply about it, he is going to be honest. He knows that a person like himself who couldn't defy his bullies couldn't possibly put his life on the line to fight the Demon Lord. However, it seems like things have changed for the better when he meets the Saint, Edelweiss, who teaches him to become stronger for the people. As a result, he ends up accepting the fact that he is no longer the same person he was before, and that he is now a person people rely on in this alternate world. That is why, with much effort, he wants to make sure that he doesn't disappoint himself or his people. This time around, he would persevere for the betterment of everyone. Although at first he had quite a hard time, as expected from someone who is still a newbie. But over the coming days and months, it seems like his perseverance did pay off, all because he did his absolute best day and night. But no matter what goodness he does, people still end up treating him as the bad guy. Months after vigorous training, Yamato finds himself in front of everyone, now ready to be executed. It seems like due to his crazy skills and power, people now start to look at him as a monster. According to the executioner, Yamato is just another worlder holding a power that can supposedly defeat the Demon Lord. But since they are trying to be as cautious as much as possible, at the back of their minds before Yamato can even betray humanity and destroy the world just like the others did, he must already be dealt with right now and then. As a result, instead of getting support from these people, he ended up getting cuffed by magic sealing braces. So let alone get recognition for his efforts, he ended up being treated like a beast. Before his execution, the executioner asks him for his last words. But before he can even speak, the crowd starts to demand to hurriedly kill Yamato right this instant. With that said, Yamato didn't even have the chance to fight for himself, let alone reminisce about his life. But till the end, Yamato kept his composure, making sure he didn't make a scene at all. However, among the crowd, there is one person who cries for Yamato's life. And this is none other than Edelweiss. She tried to help Yamato with all she had, but it seemed like her power and authority were not enough. Seeing her there, fighting for him, made Yamato quite happy. Be it Japan or this world, he wasn't able to receive acceptance. But at least one person shed tears for him in this lifetime. That is why he is sure enough his life must have been a happy one, if he was just given a chance. Before he can reminisce on those good days, blood starts splashing all over the place as Yamato's head gets detached from his body. But seconds after that, he finds himself lying in a hospital bed. So he starts to wonder if he actually came back to the real world. But that doesn't add up considering he knows to himself that he died that day. On top of that, there is no way possible that those 3 years in the other world were just a dream. But in the end, he realizes that it is just pointless to think about something he can't understand. So for now, if he wants to find the answer, he must first confirm the situation. As he looks at his reflection in the window, he is shocked when he realizes he is covered in bruises. Aside from that, he also got several bone fractures. So although it seems impossible, he tried to use the powers he learned from the other world. And surprisingly, it seems like it worked. The pain is now gone and he can finally stand up with his own feet. So the fact that he can use magic means everything that happened to him wasn't a dream after all. But the thought that he might actually be daydreaming right now doesn't get off his mind as well. Then suddenly a woman who supposedly is his mother came in with the doctor. Seeing Yamato moving caused them to get excited, as they were not expecting it would be the case anytime soon, considering he literally got fractured all over the place. But what's weird is that Yamato doesn't have memories with this woman at all. Since he can't exactly mention the bullies, he just decided to feign memory loss. So when his mother asked him about what happened, he just went on to state that he was playing around with some friends on the school's roof when the fence broke and he slipped and fell. Believing him, the doctor went on to ask if he remembered that his name was Kusanagi Takeru, to which Takeru answered with a yes. Now that things have already been settled, the doctor just couldn't believe that Takeru's injuries were easily healed, considering this is impossible even for a proficient healer. This statement made Takeru wonder, as he wasn't expecting that even though this isn't the other world, there are healers present. A few minutes later, Takeru's dad then came to the scene, crying out for relief. He also went on to state that even though Takeru doesn't remember them, he is still happy that his boy is alive. At this point, Takeru just doesn't get what's going on anymore. But for now, since this is the first time he felt this parental love, He promises this body that he will find a way to give it back to whomever it is originally, but for a little while, he just wanted to enjoy this feeling. However, since his parents were still a bit worried, he ended up doing all sorts of tests. Since the results all showed that he was very healthy, he was quickly discharged after a day or so. While on the way home, he couldn't deny the fact that the technology at the hospital seemed more futuristic than the one he knew of. But since everyone speaks Japanese here, it must be Japan. Even still, there's a cleanliness to the city that he is not used to seeing. If he clearly remembers, back when he was in Japan as Takeru Yamato, it was the year 2000. So to know what year it is, he closely looks at the news, which flashes right in front of the screen at the side of the steering wheel. According to the news, that specific day marks the end of May, and they are now about to enter the hot spring of 2040, which means it has only been 40 years since he lived as Yamato. But that is not the reason why Takeru is so shocked. As it turns out, this world now also has its own hunters, who are risking their lives to protect the people's everyday lives. Some of the monsters these hunters are fighting are ogres, which confuses Takeru considering these monsters shouldn't be here and should be in the other world. So to know more, he went on to ask his parents about it. According to his mom, hunters sure do some incredible stuff, since it is known that if a hunter is too clumsy, it would be over for them in no time. The fact that they are fighting using magic as if it is normal just shows that this whole thing is nothing but a norm in this world. So Takeru ended up realizing that even though this is Japan, it still resembles that world so much. It was not long after when a monster suddenly attacked them in front. Thankfully, using the powers he has gained in the other world, Takeru ended up saving his and his parents' lives. But when they thought that everything was finally okay, Takeru was speechless when he noticed that there was a gate break. As this gate opened, a group of ogres started to march one by one. Based on what Takeru knows, an ogre is a monster and even the kingdom's trained knights needed several of them to take one down. An ordinary person wouldn't stand a chance against it. But if it's him, he can make quick work of it, since he knows that he can use magic skills too. However, it seems like Takeru is having second thoughts and showing his real powers, since the nail that sticks out usually gets hammered down, just like what happened in his life in the other world. Not to mention, this body of his doesn't belong to him at all. If he stands out in some weird way, then when he needs to give this body back, it will surely spell trouble, and he doesn't want to be afraid of it anymore. That is why the only option he has now is to run. As he was about to do just that, he suddenly saw his parents almost getting killed by the ogre. So without any choice, he ended up using his powers anyway. To avoid shocking his parents, Takeru just went on to state that a nearby hunter came to help them, so his parents ended up feeling a bit relieved as they started making their way out. Now that this is already settled, Takeru still has one problem left. After initiating his attack, there was an attack by someone else, so he wonders if it could become a very troublesome matter in the end. However, since his parents are still in shock, Takeru decided to just brush it off for now and just think of it later. Since their car got broken, they have no choice but to walk home. Although they had quite a long day, they were still thankful since they survived. It was such a big incident, so to think that there was no casualties is amazing. After walking for an hour or two, the three finally got home and it seemed like it was about time for Takeru to start living his new life. As soon as he got settled in, he knew for a fact that if he wanted to spend time as Kusanagi, then he would need information. So Takeru starts looking for a diary in case the owner of this body has one, but it seems like there aren't any at all. In fact, the only thing he has is a magazine about hunters, which just shows his fascination with them since all the books he has in his room are about them. As Takeru skims through it, he finds out that there is even a ranking system regarding them, as if they were some kind of celebrity. After reading every page, Takeru came across a note that the original owner wrote, showing that if he had a chance to become a hunter, he would love to join this particular guild. After finding out about this, Takeru just felt a bit weird, although he knows he is in Japan. It just doesn't feel like it at all. He has spent 3 years in a different world, so he is kind of used to strange things. Moreover, it seems like it is his first time seeing and having a phone of his own. Although he is having a hard time operating, he seems to enjoy learning it. But no matter how many times he tries to not get startled when it notifies him, he can't help doing so at all. He is aware that he gets more nervous accepting messages from this phone than fighting the Demon Lord when he knows that this uses Takeru's parents' money. But with the assurance of his mother, Takeru keeps on learning how to use it. Aside from that, it seems like his mother also doesn't want him to go to school just yet because of his condition, which is good since the bullies just texted him a while ago, warning him to always stay alert no matter what. Since he has a lot of time to spare, he uses his time off to look up various things on his smartphone. Then he found out that 30 years ago, after he got summoned to the other world, gates connected Earth to another world and monsters started spilling out. Monsters started killing people and modern weapons didn't work on these unknown beings. However, out of nowhere, magicians appeared and started fighting the monsters themselves. The magicians began to pass it off as a skill that anybody could learn, so magic became an essential subject and people started defeating the monsters. Those who studied magic became known as Magi, and those that defeated monsters as hunters. their role became important in dealing with gate breaks, as well as the protection of their everyday lives. That's what Takeru has read online. But to learn more, he decided to visit the city himself. Upon scrolling, one thing is for sure, society has really adapted to magic. The world now doesn't feel real to Takeru, since this world differs greatly from the one he knows. It has been 40 years, so people got used to it. It's not like he wants to return to his time, but he can't deny the fact that he feels a lot more alone than he thought. In the midst of his strolling, a woman screams for help as one guy snatches her bag. What's more fascinating is the fact that the snatcher is using magic to escape. So without any choice, Takeru went on to use his magic to catch the culprit. After a while or so, the woman thanked Takeru for helping them. They also hide the fact that Takeru is so amazing with his magic. After realizing that he was too fast than he expected, he tells himself to be more careful next time around. Then out of nowhere, the grandma hands over a couple of candies as a gift of appreciation for what Takeru did. This caused Takeru to reminisce about the time he was with his grandma in his past life. At this point, he finally realizes that even if 40 years have already passed and a lot of things have changed, the fundamental aspects have remained the same, and he is glad for that. On his way home, it seems like the bully who has been threatening him is trying to land a hit. This bully thinks highly of himself, making Takeru realize that these things don't change no matter the era, no matter the world. Now that this entitled man is already right in front of him, it seems like Takeru's instinct is telling himself to fight. The man keeps on blabbering some words, warning Takeru not to call him by his name without respect, and that Takeru is supposed to call him Araki-kun, which is technically saying that this man is superior to him. The man then keeps on blaming Takeru, saying that it was his fault that the police suddenly came to his place, which resulted in his father beating him non-stop. As the man's voice starts to get louder, Takeru keeps his composure and just lets the man take it all out on him. But at the back of his mind, even after 40 years, there are still guys like this around, which means the owner of this body has the same problem as he did in his past life. But compared to his past life, where he was afraid of guys like this to the point that he couldn't do anything anymore. But honestly for him, fighting dragons in that other world seems scarier. Compared to that, facing this Araki guy feels like he's just up against some angry dog, which means Takeru has finally grown himself as well. As he laughs at this fact, Araki starts to get insulted, so he immediately goes on to aim for a hit. But since Takeru is no longer scared of him, he easily dodges each attack without even trying at all. While Araki is having a hard time, it seems like Takeru is also feeling the same. He starts to ask himself what he should do. Although it would be a lot easier for him if he just sent this guy flying, but since he also doesn't want to be flashy, he decided to just make Araki fall over by stomping the ground. Well, that is what he planned on doing. However, in the end, he ends up punching Araki anyway, after this bully starts bad-mouthing Takeru's parents. At this point, it seems like Araki is starting to get even more furious than ever, since he wasn't expecting Takeru to fight back at all. As a result, Araki ended up resorting to using offensive magic in a place like this. But before he could even start fighting back again, a gate break suddenly appeared out of nowhere. With just one punch from the monster, Araki ended up getting beaten within seconds. Takeru was about to get worried for him, but based on the looks of it, it seemed like Araki was not dead yet. With that said, since there are no passerbys and Araki is out of the picture, Takeru decides to take down this monster himself. With just one powerful punch, he ended up causing more injury to the monster than expected. After the brief fight, Takeru also took care of the gate, since he couldn't possibly just leave it open. Since it resembles a summoning skill from the other world, if he destroys the magic circle, it might actually disappear. And surprisingly, his theory was right. Then a little while after, a group of officers arrived, so Takeru rushes to leave so that no one finds out he did this. As the officials came, they couldn't believe their eyes, since there was no way anyone could take down a bloody ogre in one hit. According to the officers' reports, it was already like this when they arrived at the scene. The bloody ogre was already dead and the gate was closed as well, which is something they weren't expecting at all. Moreover, as they continued at the scene, they also found a boy that had collapsed, probably Araki, but other than a few bruises, there was nothing unusual at all. Moreover, it also seems like Araki was fighting with a classmate, so they end up concluding it was he who did all of this. However, the higher officer doesn't think so at all, since he doesn't sense enough mana from Araki to be able to do all this. Then suddenly, she remembers the time she saw Takeru kill a monster to save his parents. So to know more about it, he decided to head back to the Hunters Association to investigate. At the back of her mind, a bloody ogre is a very dangerous monster that needs several hunters to deal with it. So the fact that this unknown hunter got to the scene right before the Hunters Association makes her quite fascinated to know more about what's really going on. After weeks of break from school, it is now time for Takeru to get back to the world of learning. Located in the Tokyo metropolitan area, Kazumi High School stands. As he got there, he was a bit shocked since this site was more familiar to him than he thought it would be. Then suddenly, as he makes his way to his class, he remembers the worried look on his dad's face earlier. telling him that there is no need for him to go to school yet if he still doesn't want to. At the back of Takeru's mind, even though his parents said all that, he knows to himself that he is already fine, so there's no reason for him to stay home anymore. After all, for sure, the real Takeru wouldn't like it if he had to repeat a year due to missed classes, which is why Takeru is here to fulfill his tasks as a student. While waiting on the campus grounds, Takeru can't help but observe his surroundings, where students are chit-chatting with one another left and right, just like how a normal high school should be. Based on Takeru's perspective, the school has that carefree energy, so he starts to wonder why the real Takeru went as far as deciding to take his life if his environment is like this. Well, there is only one explanation. Maybe the real Takeru didn't have that many friends at all. This means the circumstance of Takeru's life and his previous life are quite similar to what he thought. However, the only difference they have is that he managed to get a second chance in a different world. He was able to have the chance to practice magic with someone, exchange fierce glances between fellow adventurers, and running away or fighting against powerful demons. This caused him to remember what Edelweiss stated before, that she wanted to create a world where everyone can laugh naturally. Realizing he was distracted by his thoughts, he immediately went on to wake himself up by slapping his face subtly a few times, trying to accept the fact that there's no more turning back, as it is about time for him to take that first step. Although it may seem nerve-wracking, Takeru knows that he will do good, since he already dares to do it thanks to Edelweiss. With that said, he immediately went to his classroom where everyone was already in their seats. Before their class started, his teacher went on to inform everyone that from that day onwards, Takeru would be returning to classes. Due to the nature of his injuries, he is experiencing amnesia. The teacher informs everyone. That is why, as much as possible, the teacher wants everyone to help and support Takeru through this. Right after the introductions, Takeru immediately went to his seat, and it seemed like his classmates couldn't care any less for his return. Then out of nowhere, Araki finally enters the scene looking all proud that people now think he took down the bloody ogre the other day. So full of himself that he even went on to state that it was already expected from someone as great as him. However, the moment he saw Takeru sitting at the back of the classroom, he couldn't help but get a bit embarrassed at the thought that Takeru was the only one who was able to witness how that ogre knocked him down with one punch. So instead of teasing Takeru, he ended up ignoring him, which is unusual for many since Araki is not like this at all. While everyone keeps their attention on Araki, one of the students seems to look so worried for Takeru. A timid boy with eyeglasses then asks Takeru if he is alright, considering he is suffering from amnesia right now. After realizing that Takeru probably doesn't remember him, the timid eyeglasses boy goes on to introduce himself as Sawamura Takuro. And just like the real Takeru, Takuro also loves hunters, which is why the two often talked before. This revelation shocked Takeru, since he wasn't expecting the original owner of this body to have friends. As the day went by during dismissals, Takeru couldn't deny the fact that he was now feeling a bit more exhausted than he expected. Although there is no doubt that he got stronger physically and mentally by going to the other world, but he can't pretty much say the same for his intellect. His intellect wasn't great, and even when he was in high school, he forgot to study all the time. Not to mention that the textbooks aren't made of paper, so learning is a lot harder for him now than before. Although he is suffering from the crisis, Takuro seems amazed at the fact that even with his amnesia, Takeru looks rather fine. So Takeru went on to assure him that there was no need to worry about it, since he was improving day and night. Since they had already talked for a bit now, Takeru went on to ask his new friend what kind of person he was before, implying to the original owner of this body. Without hesitation, Takuro went on to state that Takeru was the kindest person in the world. Amid their conversation, the group of bullies tried to interrupt them, but for some reason it seems like Araki is a bit more distant in teasing Takeru, maybe because of what happened to them the other day. But to avoid looking weak, Araki reasoned out that he didn't want to get involved with Takeru anymore since it would only cause nothing but trouble. So instead of Takeru, they ended up choosing Takuro as their next target. At first they acted as if they were going to the library to study, but knowing bullies, that was not the case at all. So without hesitation, as soon as Takuro together with Araki's group left, Takeru asked his classmates just where exactly the group took Takuro. At first, Takeru thought it would be the rooftop, but after what happened to him, it seems like the school has already taken proper action and closed the entrance to the top. This means the four must be in the industrial place behind the school. Seeing Takeru rushing to help his friend is just so foreign to their classmates, as he wasn't this imposing before his amnesia at all. Meanwhile, at the industrial place at the back of the school, Araki and his friends are asking Takuro some questions, and every time he can't answer those questions, they end up punching him non-stop. While this is all happening, Takeru is seen observing the whole situation in the shadows. Although he badly wants to rush in and help Takuro, he still doesn't want to change Takeru's circumstances too much. So as much as he could, he would like to avoid going straight in since it would cause a scene. But then the thought that Takuro came on his own to protect him rushes in. However, it was still not enough reason to push Takeru to jump in and help. Minute after minute, Araki and his group went on to toss and punch Takudo as if he were a toy, and even went on to teasingly ask him to call for Takudo's help. What Takudo said after that is what caused Takudo to have a change of heart. Takudo is now guilty of the fact that he let Takudo, whom he calls his friend, suffer so much from the hands of these bullies so that he can make sure he is safe. That is why, now that Takudo is back, he has gained the courage to make sure that he will not repeat the same mistake of abandoning his friend when he needs him the most. Hearing this caused Takudo's heart to ignite, considering this is the first time he has ever seen someone willing to risk their lives for his sake. So as a result, it is now time for Takudo to protect him as well. Then, a couple of seconds after Takudo arrived, Takudo suddenly fainted. Seeing this caused the other bullies to look down on him, calling him scrawny or not even having the endurance to be a sandbag. But for Takudo, his friend is as strong as everybody else. Seeing Takudo here amazes the bullies, since they weren't expecting he had the guts to even face them. They guessed the amnesia he suffered made him go cray-cray, so they honestly thought that they would be able to beat him into a pulp in just one go. Little did they know this was not the same Takudo they knew of. With just one punch, Takudo easily brought them down, shocking them to the next level. But since Araki's men are so full of themselves, instead of running for their lives, they even try to fight back, only for them to get defeated in the end. Seeing his teammates suffer greatly at the hands of Takudo makes Araki quite furious, to the point that he starts to act as if he is going to fight back himself as well. But before he can even do so, Takudo stops him on the spot, warning him that if he doesn't fix his habit of barking, he will surely annoy other people nearby. But instead of getting scared, Araki keeps his ego up, saying he doesn't want his friends to see that he is now weaker than Takudo. As a result, his friends also still had the guts to come to Takudo, even though they would stand no chance against him. Meanwhile, Takudo seems okay with this, since this simply means it would be easier for him to take them down in one go. He then remembers that one time during the war with the Demon Lord's army, when he was honest to a fault and let a guy go, all because that guy stated that he was just forced against his own will by the Demon Lord to fight for him. Since Takudo sympathizes with that person, the village he was supposed to protect was razed to the ground because of that mistake. Thanks to that, he finally learned the lesson that once he starts something, he can't possibly be half-hearted about finishing it. That is why, starting now, he will make sure not to make the same mistake ever again. Now that he is already furious about it, Takudo will make sure that he will break those bullies no matter what. But before he can even do so, a blue gate suddenly appears, causing the three to panic. Then when an ogre appears out of the gate, the three don't know what to do, considering ogres are considered the most dangerous monster that can come from a blue gate. But since Araki is here, his friends are relieved, thinking that he can easily defeat this monster, considering he has already beaten a bloody ogre before. Since there is no way he can reveal it wasn't him who defeated that ogre, Araki acted all strong and even went on to act as if he was going to attack the monster using his magic power. But as he expected, his magic is nothing compared to the hunter's. In the end, the ogre ended up beating him with just one punch. As a result, his friends started running for their lives. Meanwhile, Takudo looks calm, standing still on the side. So as expected, the ogre started rushing towards him instead. Using his power with just one blow, he immediately defeated the ogre everyone was scared of fighting against. Araki, who witnessed everything with his own eyes this time, starts to fear Takudo, even calling him a monster. As Takudo walks towards him, Araki asks him to stay away from him, but it seems like Araki had the wrong idea, since Takudo just wanted to help him a bit. Using his healing power, Takudo ended up easing Araki's pain from the attack earlier. Then out of nowhere, Takudo breaks the ground with just one touch of his hand. He then told Araki to tell everyone that he was the one who defeated the ogre, since as much as possible, Takudo wants to live his life peacefully by not standing out. At first, Araki doesn't want to agree with Takudo's proposition, but after talking it out, it seems like he eventually agrees to play the part. Aside from that, Takudo also warns him not to bother Takudo and him from now on. Aside from that, Takudo also wants Araki to stop bullying people as well. If there ever happens to be a next time, Takudo will make sure to not let him live anymore. Now that the hunters are on their way, Takudo rushes to get out carrying Takudo, while reminding Araki to do a good job deceiving the officials. After a bit, at the hunter training technical school called Odan Academy, one of the hunters reported that she was dispatched to deal with the gate and the ogre to Kazumi High School. But before she managed to even arrive, everything was already dealt with. The hunter also reported that the lone male student that was at the scene, which is probably Akida, claimed he defeated it by himself. But the remnants of mana at the scene were way over a normal human's output, which means that it can only be excreted by a monster presence. Seeing how the hunter is so scared when she has more than enough power as a hunter means that the person behind it is no ordinary person indeed. So to know more about the situation, the organization head went on to check Araki's description. Since this is such a fascinating case, the head decided to take care of it from now on. After reviewing everything, she just had the feeling that the person who contained the appearance of the monster today was someone else, not Araki. As she read through the case, she stumbled upon the report stating that Araki was arguing with someone when he supposedly defeated the Bloody Ogre the other day. So it seems like there is no mistake that this someone who vanished from that scene is the real person who is behind all of this. But since she still doesn't have concrete evidence to prove this, she has no choice but to ask Araki herself. All for the sake of her family and the people, she will make sure that all of the possibilities of an irregularity cannot be left unchecked. And for those who are wondering who this girl is that has been leading the hunters, well, she is none other than S-rank hunter Sakura, and she has now arrived at Takeru's high school to get closer to the truth. The next few days after the incident happened, the whole classroom, including Araki's friends, are now shocked at his sudden character change. They find it quite funny but weird at the same time. He now looks all posh and good. Like gosh, this is a change one sees overnight, but it seems like Araki managed to pull it off. Even when his friends are about to tease Takeru, Araki immediately stops them himself, completely confusing Takeru. But before things get weirder than they already are, thankfully Takeru finally arrives, completely changing the atmosphere. After catching up for a bit, Takeru couldn't help but ask Takeru if he knew what happened to Araki, since he had been acting weird all morning. Instead of telling the truth, Takeru just went on to state that maybe Araki is now finally decided to be more diligent, which Takeru thinks is a good thing. As the bell rings, indicating that it is already the start of the classes, Sakura finally arrives at Kazumi High School to conduct her investigation. Nowadays, it is known that all hunters are managed by the Hunter Association. So to think that a person holding that much power is going around as they please worries Sakura so much. That is why, with all she has, she will make sure to find that irregular no matter what. As she was about to enter the school, she happened to come across another S-rank hunter, Hebikawa Jin, also known as Orochi. Orochi immediately asks Sakura what brought her here, but before she can even answer his question, he immediately cuts her off, saying it's fine. Sakura then went on to ask if it is okay for Orochi to be here considering he is a guildmaster of Ouroboros Guild, which is in charge of the Tokai region. Orochi immediately assures her that there is no need to worry at all since their guild has a lot of excellent people in it. Just by witnessing this conversation, it is already apparent that there is a tension between these two. At the back of Sakura's mind, there is no way Orochi is here for no reason. Knowing that the Ouroboros Guild, which Orochi manages, is famous for their aggressive scouting methods, there's a possibility that he is here because of the irregular. So to keep it simple, he is here to try to gain power by recruiting another talented hunter into their guild. As the two S-rank hunters start to discuss who, they are suddenly interrupted when a sudden gate break happens inside the school premises itself. As students start to panic, the teachers ask everyone to calm down and evacuate in an orderly manner. Sakura immediately stays alert and is now about to head inside to help. But to her surprise, it seems like Orochi would not come with her at all. As Orochi walks in the opposite direction, he goes on to state Sakura can already take care of it on her own. After all, he is not technically so free to deal with such small fries anyways. This statement irritated Sakura so much, considering Orochi is not fulfilling his hunter's sworn duty. But little did she know, Orochi felt something off. It seems like the magic power he felt when the gate broke is much more powerful than he expected. So as much as possible, he wants to be prepared before facing it, leaving Sakura to take care of it on her own. When Sakura arrived, the whole school was already in chaos, and it seems like there was a lot more of them than she thought. With all of her power, she tries to save as many students as she can. So to make sure that everyone gets out safely, she checks every room as much as possible. To her surprise, it seems like some students with fighting experience can take care of their own. After all, these skeletons and ghouls are known to be the lowest ranked monsters, so the student should be fine. However, this being an unusual situation for them can cause problems, considering these students haven't received any training at all. So as much as possible, Sakura still fulfills her duty to help everyone as much as she can. As she rushes to where the source of the gate is, she is surprised when she sees Takeru, who is forming a magic circle to somehow subside the chaos. The moment she saw him in that room, she immediately knew he was the irregular she had been looking for. Realizing that someone has seen him right after he closes the gate, Takeru immediately rushes to run away from Sakura as soon as possible. However, it seems like Sakura is quite dedicated to catching this irregular no matter what. So as Takeru runs as fast as he can, Sakura on the other hand, using her lightning boost, goes on to hastily chase after Takeru. Sakura herself is a bit astonished at the fact that Takeru is just using a mere physical boost since he is much faster than the average user. On top of that, Sakura's lightning boost should also give her more speed than Takeru's skill, but it seems like that is not the case at all. However, the possibility that she can keep up is still apparent, so as much as possible, Takeru doesn't want to turn around and show his face to her, but there is no doubt that he can feel her pressure, even with this distance. Although Takeru can go faster if he wants to, considering physical boost is magic that increases the user's physical abilities. However, for some reason he can't, since this is the limit for Kusanagi Takeru. If he was just in his original body, which had undergone training, there is a possibility that he is already kilometers away by now. Well, even if he thinks about that more deeply, it can't be helped anymore. After all, magic stems from the soul, and he does have it under control, but it would be bad to let his guard down now. But the idea of training Takeru's body does come to his mind. However, for now, he needs to focus on hiding his identity as much as possible. Using his aerial boost, he instantly vanishes in thin air due to his speed. At this point, Sakura decided to give up on him for now. Meanwhile, after a couple of minutes, Takeru is now finally pretty far away from school. Considering what happened, for sure the classes for this day are already cancelled, so there is no reason for Takeru to head back anymore. As he walks home, he starts contemplating that the one who chased after him was probably a hunter. When he looked them up on the net, he thought they were like the chivalric order or adventurers from the other world, but it seems like the difference is pretty far from what he expected. That is why, as much as possible, he doesn't want to let his guard down anymore. As soon as he got home, his mother started hugging him tightly. So glad to see her son okay. It seems like the parents have already heard about the news that ogres appeared at Takeru's high school. Since Takeru wasn't answering his phone, his parents were so worried for him. Speaking of which, he starts looking for his phone, which he thinks fell in school. Surprisingly, according to his mother, a friend of his came to their house and brought it back for him. That person is currently in the living room, so his mother wants him to thank his friend himself. As soon as he saw who his mother was referring to, he froze in place, since it was none other than Sakura, who looked fascinated seeing the shocked look on Takeru's face. But as much as possible, Takeru tries to hide his identity still, acting as if he wasn't the guy from earlier and just thanking Sakura for bringing back his phone. However, it seems like Sakura already knows what Takeru is trying to do, so straightforwardly she went on to state that she wants to ask Takeru about some things. Still acting as if he doesn't know anything, Takeru tries to put on an awkward smile, asking what are those questions exactly. Without hesitation, Sakura went on to state that it is about yesterday's abandoned factory incident, as well as the bloody ogre incident a while ago. At this point, Takeru has finally realized that there is no way he would be able to get away with this anymore. This is a lot worse than he thought, since there is no way he can run away anymore. There's also no way that he can talk about the incident openly here, especially with his mother listening. So, as much as possible, he tried to distract his mom, hoping that she would leave them to talk for a good minute or two. And thankfully she did. For them to be able to talk this out properly, Takeru decided to take Sakura to his room. Sakura immediately asks Takeru just who he is exactly. This shocked Takeru, as he wasn't expecting that Sakura would go straight for it. However, even if she asks him who he is, he won't reveal it at all. So Sakura went on to state that depending on Takeru's answer, she might have to restrain him if she doesn't have a choice. At this point, Takeru starts to see her as a boorish type of person, and it seems like he is starting to get the feeling that if he lies poorly, Sakura will eventually find it out anyways. However, even if he tells her the truth that he is a hero from a different world, there's still a big chance that Sakura would take it off as a joke. Since Takeru has been extra quieter than he should be, Sakura is starting to lose patience with him, so she ends up pinning him to the wall, getting them two in a very awkward position. It seems like Sakura honestly thinks that Takeru has been doing something bad, that is why he's been staying all silent. So to set things straight, Takeru went on to explain that it's not the case at all, since he is actually suffering from amnesia, so technically he doesn't remember anything at all. But if that was the case, how was he even fighting off monsters? Aside from that, it seems like he also has good senses to use magic as well, to the point that even during such an emergency, he stays calm. As much as possible, Takeru tries to talk with her calmly so that they won't end up arguing that much. So to make it seem believable, he just went on to state that he is not sure himself, but for some reason, he can do that. However, as he was already expecting, it seemed like that excuse was already a bit too much, which is why Sakura looked at him with extra suspicion than before. Since she is still not satisfied with that answer, she goes on to ask him why he is even hiding his power. Surprisingly, Takeru answered the question truthfully, stating that even if he gained this power all of a sudden, he didn't want to use it since it would scare a lot of people. Aside from that, he also doesn't want to worry about his parents and has no desire to become a hunter at all. But it seems like Sakura doesn't believe him at all, since there is no way someone would let the opportunity to have a high social status, fame, and everything in between slide just like that. Without hesitation, Takeru answered it seriously, stating that he didn't need such things at all. If he can spend his time peacefully, that is already enough for him. This shocked Sakura a bit, as she wasn't expecting Takeru's reason to be that deep. At this point, she finally starts to understand Takeru's side. As long as he doesn't use his power for bad things, then she and the Hunter Association have nothing more to say to him. Aside from that, Sakura also assures him that she will make it look like she took care of the matter earlier so that the association doesn't dig deeper into the investigation. This reaction from Sakura isn't what Takeru was expecting, so he was a bit surprised at first. So Sakura went on to explain that he doesn't want to believe everything right away, but when she starts to realize that all Takeru did was protect others, she can't help but open her eyes to the truth. That pretty much ended up with their discussion. Before she leaves, Sakura goes on to apologize to Takeru for chasing him all of a sudden, and also being violent inside his home. Seeing Sakura bow down to him makes him a bit uncomfortable, so he immediately assures her that there's no need to worry at all. Then, out of nowhere with a serious look on her face, Sakura went on to ask Takeru to think about becoming a hunter, so that others could live in peace. After all, there is no way he would be able to hide that power forever. But if he is sure of his decision to live a normal, peaceful life, then Sakura would just do her best to protect it no matter what. Hearing that statement caused Takeru to remember Edelweiss all of a sudden, making him realize that there are still good people left in this world after all. After a few days or so, Takeru decided to go on for a run since exercising does calm him down a bit. Considering the school is still temporarily closed down due to the disaster, this is what Takeru has been doing for the past few days. On this particular day, amid his running session, a black gate suddenly appeared, and the authorities just got back in time to make sure everything was under control. Since it does take time for a black gate to break open and the strong monsters to spill out, it is technically possible to close the gate and prevent any damage to this world by defeating the boss monster. Since there are just so many people gathering around, Takeru starts to wonder if they are waiting for the hunters to come back. Aside from that, he also starts to wonder if inside that gate is a different world, maybe the same world he knows about. So the thought of going in did cross his mind. As he is about to do just that, the Wingard party enters the scene, calling his attention and assuring him that there is no need to fear anything anymore. The C-rank party that has been talked about by many consists of 4 members, which are Shirai Chika, Tomita Yuichi, Amamiya Matsuri, and the party leader Gato Mamoru. As soon as the party arrived, it seemed like the crowd had become more lively than they were a while ago. Seeing the party's bond somehow brings back memories of Takeru, back when he was still in the other world. Gato Mamoru reminds him of the general he used to train with before, which somehow causes him to smile a bit. For a brief flashback, the Kingdom Army's general, Grotto, is the one who helps Takeru to hone his skills in swordsmanship and fighting in general. But no matter how much he tries to defeat Grotto, it seems like his skill is just far weaker during those times. This doesn't mean that Grotto doesn't think highly of him. After all, Takeru at that time was a messiah, which technically means the one chosen by God. So Grotto is sure that his physical prowess and his magical abilities will grow at an astonishing rate over the coming years. If so, Takeru starts to wonder why can't he even land an attack against Grotto at all. So Grotto went on to explain, saying that no matter how fast one is, a powerful attack will always leave an opening. In short, it is all about how he uses it, which means Takeru can pretty much create a gap for himself. Their conversation was going well until a demon appeared out of thin air. It is a demon they have never seen before, so the two start to wonder how it even made it to the side. As the two are left in confusion, the demon manages to find an opening, causing the general to get injured along the way. Takeru, who can't move because of fear that time, couldn't do anything to help the general. Grotto, who would always make sure to put others' lives before him, went on to tell Takeru to run away immediately while the demon was still distracted with him. But Takeru just doesn't have the guts to leave Grotto behind. However, after Grotto emotionally asks him to leave, as he can't anymore take losing someone special to him after he lost his wife and son, Takeru finds himself rushing towards the demon, slashing it in half. Although he badly wants to run, he can't just use the general as a decoy. On top of that, he has already decided apart from his old self. So with the best he can, he tries to defeat this monstrous being no matter what. In the end, with much determination, Takeru unexpectedly defeats the demon, shocking Grotto. So seeing Gato somehow reminds Takeru of the general, as they have something similar after all. Speaking of his training, it has already been 3 hours since he started, but Takeru's ears are still feeling weird. But instead of thinking much about it, he decides to focus on doing more cardio to increase his endurance. And as for his diet, since his body has no problems losing weight, Takeru decided not to change it anymore. Sure enough, this new body of his feels different from his own, which is why he needs to make adjustments to not alter the body line as much as possible. While he is peacefully contemplating his next fitness journey, the party has finally come back, but it seems like there is a problem. One of their members, Chika, is still inside as she decided to become a decoy for the team to escape, and Gato couldn't forgive himself that he let that happen. Hearing this made Takeru realize that he was witnessing a different future of that time, and if someone doesn't come soon, things will get worse for the party. Then out of nowhere, Takeru just realizes that he is already inside the gate, as he unconsciously enters it when his mind was clouded a while ago. Since he had entered it already, it couldn't be helped, so he went on to look for Chika himself. As he starts to scan the area, the monster takes notice of him. Now the question is, will Takeru be able to survive this predicament or not? Meanwhile, for some reason, Takeru is feeling somewhat nostalgic. He can't tell whether it is that alternate world or not, or maybe it is just from the forest, but all the monsters are quite familiar to him. After a while, he comes to realize that this world is the same as the one he used to be in. Then all of a sudden, Chika came out of nowhere, being chased by a one-eyed monster. Due to the cloudiness of her mind, still thinking if her teammates were okay, Chika ended up stumbling, causing the monster to have an opening to attack. But before things get worse, Takeru was able to block the attack using his ice magic. Seeing Takeru shocked Chika, as she wasn't expecting someone would arrive this fast to help her. On the other hand, Takeru also went on to state that he is glad he made it in time. Although Chika has some bruises, that seems to be all it is. To avoid being asked for his identity, Takeru just went on to state that he is just a passerby, but it seems like Chika doesn't believe him at all. As an observant, Chika immediately realizes that this unknown man is the same kid they saw outside the gate since he has the same outfit and voice. Chika's memory stunned Takeru a bit, and since he is already caught, there is no reason for him to lie anymore. As it turns out, Chika is the one who investigates and scouts hunters, so she keeps track of everything around her, which is maybe why she easily realizes it was Takeru all along. So before things get out of control once again, Takeru asks her to move quickly since everyone outside is so worried about her. Hearing this made Chika happy since this simply meant everyone was safe all along. However, somewhere around the corner, the gate boss is quite excited since it is now about time for the main event. As they make their way back to the gate, Chika starts to wonder how the hell Takeru managed to have that much power even though he is not carrying any tools. Aside from that, the spell he used was of a beginner level, so there's no way it was special of some sort. Not to mention, he also looks like he is dressed as if he went out for a walk to some convenience store, so there is no way possible he just entered the gate where monsters roam freely. This eventually made Chika wonder just who the hell is this kid exactly. Amid her contemplation, Takeru stops abruptly, confusing her. But then out of nowhere, an attack from the gate boss started rushing towards them. The big explosion and catastrophic scene caused Chika to almost faint. Since she is now too scared to even move, Takeru ends up carrying her instead. Meanwhile, it seems like Takeru's power also surprised the gate boss, as the kid just erased her pet and took off. So the gate boss has no choice but to up her game as well. Knowing that things would become more chaotic from now on, Takeru asks Chika if she happens to have any items to obscure the area when she leaves the gate, and it seems like she does. As they get to the gate, Takeru asks her for a favor not to tell anyone about him at all, which is something Chika already knows. Before he leaves, he makes sure that Chika goes on first to make sure no one sees him. On the other hand, it seems like the gate boss is not happy with this, considering she still wants to play with them more. But since it can't be helped, now that the gate has already closed, the gate boss just hoped to see them next time. Meanwhile, back outside, the party is quite happy after seeing Chika alive. On the other hand, lurking behind the trees, while checking if Chika is okay, Takeru still tries to hide his identity to avoid getting attention as much as possible. Days after the incident, it seems like Takeru's classes have now resumed. At school, it seems like Araki has changed drastically, not just from the way he acts, but also from the way he dresses. But aside from that, it seems like Takeru, Araki, together with Takudo, are not technically at their school, but instead, their high school has decided to temporarily let the three attend classes at Odan Academy, since their school is still in the process of repairing the damages that has been caused by the gate break. This literally shocked the three as it was not something they were expecting at all. As it turned out, when the break happened, each hunter training school decided to allocate space for classes to continue. The class material will be aligned with the schools, so it's closer to an internship. And since their temporary school is made larger, it can now also work as a shelter as well. Since this is the first time Takudo has ever experienced such a thing, like most of them probably, this makes him feel a bit excited. And to think that they've been sent to Odan Academy just makes it much more exciting than it already is. But Takudo couldn't deny the fact that he had mixed feelings with Araki being here with them. Immediately, Takeru assures him that for sure, Araki wouldn't do anything here of all places. After all, this is one of the most prestigious academies in the whole country, so there's no way Araki can act all high inside these grounds. So as much as possible, Takeru wants Takudo to forget about Araki for now, so that they can enjoy this experience the most. As expected, Odan Academy is very amazing. The famous hunter Takamina Sakura is here as well. Aside from that, there are also a lot of graduates who are at the top of the ranks as well, so being here seems like a dream come true for Takudo. As Takudo keeps on blabbering on how amazed he is with the academy, Takeru manages to notice that nearly all the students here carry weapons to be able to fight at all times. But his observation was cut off when Takudo started asking him if he was able to meet Sakura in person, considering she was the one who picked up his smartphone and asked for his address. Since there's no reason for Takudo to lie, he went on to state the truth, and let's just say Takudo was a bit jealous about it. Due to his curiosity, he went on to even ask Takeru if they happened to exchange contact info. With an awkward smile, Takeru tries to avoid answering the question, and thankfully, Takeru eventually stops pestering Takeru with his questions. Instead, he went on to state that he heard Sakura has a fan club that is pretty extreme, so as much as possible, if ever Takeru got a bit close to Sakura, he must try to make sure to be careful as much as possible, since no one really knows what these people would do if they found out Sakura brought Takeru's phone herself. Just right on time, Sakura suddenly enters the scene, captivating everyone's attention. As everyone's head starts turning just to look at her, Takeru can't seem to deny the fact that he is quite amazed that even on school grounds, she feels like an unattainable flower, as Takeru would describe it. However, this made Takeru also wonder if Sakura has personal friends or not. As Sakura glances over him, for some reason he just finds himself smiling while greeting her. This shocked Takeru since he wasn't expecting Takeru would ever act this way. Realizing what just happened, Takeru started feeling shy for a good minute. So to avoid confronting the awkward situation, he immediately rushes to the cafeteria, completely ignoring Takeru at the back. After classes, Sakura and Takeru went on to have a meeting. In the said meeting, Sakura informs Takeru that after helping Chika the other day, although his identity wasn't revealed at all as promised, people are now starting to get more curious and knowing who he is to the extent that they would do their own investigations as well. That is why Sakura wants to inform him that there is a limit to how much she can cover for him. Now that the Hunter Association is in an uproar, means that things are definitely going to get hard for Takeru. Speaking of which, based on Sakura's investigation, they can pretty much guesstimate what the strength of the boss will be in the Black Gate based on mana. Since the gate that the party went on the other day was a D rank, the C rank party wind guard were supposed to be done in around 10 minutes. But in reality, an A rank Cyclops appeared, causing them to struggle so much. Moreover, to make the story much more fascinating yet problematic at the same time, this irregular, aka Takeru, appeared at the scene uninvited. Since he is not registered with the association who coincidentally was there, it is now a question to many if this irregular is someone they can call as a friend or a foe. Aside from that, Sakura also theorizes that if there was an enemy that unleashed strong magical power like Takeru reported, it would definitely cause an uproar. This causes Takeru to somehow feel a bit guilty about stepping in a situation without thinking about it thoroughly. Realizing that she has been a bit harsh with her approach, Sakura tries to assure Takeru that there is no need to dwell on it so much, considering what he did was definitely the right thing anyway. Since no matter what special power he got, he's still after all a citizen who wishes for a peaceful life that he must protect. So from now on, Sakura wants to hear him promise to protect his life no matter what. With a captivating smile on her face, she went on to also tell Takeru that he should now leave the dangerous things to the hunters, since he has his parents that will worry for his well-being if he gets involved with other situations like this. Considering they still have a lot of things to do, they ended the meeting after discussing the important points. On his way back to class, Takeru has now realized that Sakura's kindness is what caused other people to admire her. Takeru didn't even have the chance to chill out for a bit when a horde of goblins started to rush towards them. Seeing this didn't scare Takeru anymore, considering he had already gotten used to this abrupt situation. But because of what they just talked about, it seems like he doesn't want to take action first. Then, after a good minute or so, a group of hunter students rushes to the scene to take care of the situation. After fighting, Takeru can't deny the fact that they are indeed quite flashy. But what surprised him a bit is the fact that this group is the one Takeru has been talking about. The one and only Sakura's fan club. The club's president, Byodoin, is rather energetic than he thought, just like the other members. And it seems like the A-rank group is looking forward to getting along with Takeru, who doesn't seem excited at all. Since Byodoin looks rather excited to be friends with Takeru, seeing the new kid silent seems new to him. Since this is such a rare scene for him, he just went on to conclude that Takeru might be wondering what Odan society is. So even if Takeru didn't ask him to, he went on to explain everything as much as he could. Since Byodoin admires Sakura so much, he can't seem to deny the fact that she is like a beautiful goddess that needs to be protected no matter what. That is why those who admire her gather and protect the city. As their number increased, it eventually serves as the largest guild in this school, which protects the peace of the general public. So this made Takeru wonder if this simply means that it wasn't just a fan club at all. To explain further, Byodoin went on to continue, revealing that the only condition to join the club is to love and respect Sakura. Even if one is not a hunter, be it a Magnus or a support, there are plenty of things for one to do. That is why after seeing how Takeru looks at Sakura gave Byodoin the idea that Takeru might actually want to join their club himself. And based on the looks of it, Byodoin sees Takeru fit to be a part of their club, maybe because of the powerful aura Takeru emits. However, Takeru knows there and there that he is not good at dealing with these types of people at all. But it seems like Byodoin has now decided to let Takeru join, especially after seeing how calm he was when that monster almost attacked him earlier. Byodoin knows that it was not an ordinary behavior at all. Since this is going a bit too far than expected, Takeru immediately went on to set things straight as soon as he could. He informs Byodoin that he just got surprised a while ago, that is why he stayed still. So it wasn't really out of the ordinary. Then out of nowhere, Sakura enters the scene, rushing to check if everything is alright since she was able to sense the gate appearing a while ago. Since it was already taken good care of, Takeru is about to tell Sakura that a group has already done the job. But as he was about to introduce them, he was a bit stunned when he saw that they were already gone. so he just brushed it off for now. The next day, Takadu still is wondering what the group's deal was yesterday, but no matter what it is, as much as possible, he doesn't want to get involved at all. But for there to be such a huge guild within the school amazes Takadu a bit. However, this wasn't a surprise to him anymore, considering Sakura's influence was already apparent from the get-go. That is why, as much as possible, he wants to be more careful not to get in the way of their work to avoid making things difficult for him. However, it seems like Byodoin is quite dedicated to making Takadu a member of their club. When Takadu was on his way to enter one of his morning classes, to his surprise, Byodoin was already waiting for him by the door. Although Takadu doesn't want to get involved with this man at all, it seems like he doesn't have a choice considering Byodoin is also a part of the same class. So, during and even after lectures, Byodoin always has his eyes on him, which makes Takadu quite uncomfortable. Then there is Takado, who turns out to be an avid fan of Byodoin, telling Takadu much about the young prodigy. According to what Takado knows, Byodoin is the successor to the Byodoin family, a famous spearmanship household that's been around for over 1,000 years. It is known that Byodoin was strong enough to be called a child prodigy, and on top of that, he is also one of the only 5 A-rank hunters in Oran Academy. This gave Takadu the idea that this guy is indeed outstanding even without the club. To see how good Byodoin really is, Takuro really looks forward to their next lessons, which will be held in the academy training grounds. This class somehow makes Takuro quite excited considering these types of lectures are not usually possible in a normal school other than when a person from the association comes. So as expected, for this to be included as a normal lesson means that Oran Academy is indeed a prestigious school indeed. During this hunter training, the school will basically use DS monsters to train the students in fighting against monsters in real battles. The usual DS monsters the academy uses are slimes, which according to the professor is a good monster to learn basic skills with. These doppelganger slimes change according to what data was put into the DS house. DS is simply an abbreviation for doppelganger slime in case you wonder. Seeing these slimes shapeshift into a goblin-like figure makes Takadu wonder if it is indeed alright to let students fight against it. But after realizing that they are just pseudo-monsters made by a magus for practice, means that there is no need to worry at all. As the training started, a lot of students with great potential started to prove themselves one by one. After every fight, their professor then gives them advice and constructive criticisms that should definitely help them in the long run. When it was time for Byodoin to show off his skills, everyone was amazed by his superb technique. Then after a minute or two, it was finally Takado, and Araki's time to show off their skills as well. Before doing so, the professor asked Takado to choose his weapon first. These weapons can either be used by hunters or magi, but if the professor is going to recommend, he would like Takado to go for the sword as a starter. After choosing, the 3 finally went in place to initiate their attacks. As soon as the bell rings, Takado and Araki immediately go in, while Takado stands on the side. This confused many, but what happened next surprised the audience. There was one enemy left, so it was up to Takado if he went in or not. At first, the people thought that he wouldn't swing his sword anymore, but to their surprise, they just found the slime defeated without even seeing Takado swinging the sword. Which means Takado's sword technique is as good as that of those ranked hunters. Since Takado can't simply let people think he is so good with this, he went on to ask for Araki's help, with them blaming the slime for not realizing he has already been cut. Although Araki doesn't want to play along, he has no choice but to agree, confusing Takado, who is quite surprised that the two are now seemingly close. Meanwhile, it seems like Byodoin's interests with Takado are now starting to get even more deeper, especially now that he has already seen Takado fight. The next day, after their training, Takado went on to visit the library to find a way to give back Takado his body, but it seems like he is slowly realizing that it is not going to be simple at all. However, he does have an idea who to call for when he wants to look for clues. There's one magazine he was able to get from Sawamura, and the story in it somewhat resembles his situation. Just like him, the girl featured in the magazine is experiencing the same, except that her soul remains intact, compared to Takado, who is not. So if that is the case, this made Takado wonder if the original holder of this body is still somehow inside its body. In the midst of his contemplation, Byodoin enters the scene, obviously wanting to get closer to Takado again. After getting all interested in knowing more about Takado, Byodoin ended up concluding that Takado is probably hiding his true powers. But instead of getting all shocked, Takado just went on to stay calm as much as possible. This made Byodoin insist that Takado is indeed hiding something. But instead of getting intimidated, Takado keeps his character and just went on to state that he is just a normal student with memory loss. However, it seems like Byodoin doesn't believe this at all. So to check it himself, he went on to ask Takado if it is okay for them to fight in a duel, to which Takado immediately turned down. But when Byodoin went on to talk about Hunter Uesugi, the one in Takado's magazine, it seems like Takado starts to get interested in talking with Byodoin as he badly wants to know more about this legendary hunter. It seems like Byodoin was able to meet her in a gathering of martial artists at his place, but as of now, Uesugi is probably back home already. Plus, she is usually holed up on the grounds of the sacred mountain, so meeting with her wouldn't be easy at all. But it seems like Byoduin can find a way with the use of his family's connections, which means Byoduin can technically help Takeru only if Takeru agrees on fighting against him in a duel. So using some of the tamed black gates that have appeared in the campus, Takeru and Byoduin went on to start their duel. As their fight started, the way Takeru held his sword and moved his hands made Byoduin realize that his speculation is indeed correct after all, that Takeru is stronger than he looks. But Takeru couldn't deny the fact that Byoduin is strong as well. However, since they have a deal, Takeru tries his best to make sure that he wins no matter what. With the use of bloodlust, Byoduin starts to see his own death, which causes him to get intimidated by Takeru's presence, eventually causing Takeru to win in the end. Instead of getting sad about it, Byoduin was surprisingly happy since this means Takeru is really the person he thinks he is, stronger and bolder. Then out of nowhere, the great bull stuck to the wall suddenly changed into a minotaur. Takeru immediately takes his position to fight off this beast. However, Byoduin stops him on time, telling him to run away. Although Byoduin now knows Takeru's real power, he doesn't want to burden him with the duties he should do as a member of the Oran society. Although Takeru defeated him with his pinky, the thought that Takeru wants to become an ordinary person. So, as the president of the club, Byoduin wants to embody Sakura's ideals and exercise his duty to protect Takeru no matter what. Aside from that, Byoduin also went on to apologize, saying that he knows Takeru wants to hide his identity, but he ended up making him go along with him. That is why, to make up for it, Byoduin will make sure to become just like his idol, selfless and kind. 4 years ago at the Byoduin family dojo, Byoduin Soma, who was a first-year junior high school student at that time, kept on winning each match one after another. The other students at that time couldn't believe he was even real. But with such power, everyone already expected that Byoduin was naturally gifted. Among the adults, only the head of the clan can win against this kid, as one would expect from a child prodigy. But it seems like Byoduin's father is not happy with his attitude at all. According to his father, he should not be rude to his opponents at all, considering just having skills won't get him anywhere, but having true strength is. So to tease his father, Byoduin even went on to dictate the exact words his father told him before, saying that one should always protect and guide people correctly with an unbreakable heart against all odds. Hearing this day and night caused Byoduin to get all fed up, and since his training is finally done, he rushes home completely ignoring his already furious dad. But there's no denying that Byoduin does love getting praised. He even sees this as a talent of him, as it is also extremely satisfactory. Aside from that, the thought that his house is big and his face is good looking gives him that confidence others don't have. Although he may look like a happy-go-lucky type of guy, Byoduin still admires his father for speaking his heart out for the sake of the people. However, no matter what angle he looks at it, for him a strong person is still a strong person at the end of the day. At the back of his mind, monsters are easy to defeat, so there's no need for him to worry that much about what his father stated. So when he got the chance to come across a black gate, Byoduin immediately jumped in with the goal of gaining as much personal experience as possible to prove to his dad that he was indeed right all along. Considering the gate Byoduin jumps into is a dangerous one, the adults outside are worried for him. Although they tried to keep him from entering, it seemed like they couldn't do anything anymore now that the kid was finally in. Since they can't possibly just go in and help him, considering there's a big chance they will end up getting killed as well, they all just pray that an A-rank hunter finally comes to their help. Thankfully, after a couple of minutes or so, an A-rank hunter finally came, telling everyone to step back since it is not safe to stay near the gate. Meanwhile, inside the gate, Byoduin couldn't believe what he was witnessing. All this time, he thought that his skills were enough to kill any monsters there were, but it seemed like he was wrong all this time. When the monster grabbed him by the arm at that exact moment, he honestly thought that it was the end for him. But to his surprise, everyone came to the rescue, which is something he was not expecting at all. He then starts to wonder what is going on. Why is there only one rescuer? Will this woman manage to defeat this monster alone? Although he badly wants to move, it seems like due to fear, he somehow can't move his body anymore. On the other hand, it seems like the rescuer also is having a hard time fighting off the monster herself. But instead of worrying Byoduin, she keeps her composure and even has the time to ask Byoduin if he is hurt anymore, even if she is actually the one who's injured. At this moment, Byoduin starts to realize what his father meant with his words. It was during this time he finally realized that he was actually weak and fragile. Then there's this girl who smiles so widely, happy at the fact that he has already defeated every monster there is. So she hurriedly rushes towards Byoduin, telling him that it is now time to head back, since everything is already better now. That is why, now that he finds himself in that exact situation with Takeru, he decided to change himself and not be weak anymore, so that if he fights alongside that person, he won't feel ashamed of himself. That is why, no matter how hard it may seem, he needs to become a lot stronger than he is right now. So even though the Minotaur is considered an A-rank monster, Byoduin needs to make sure that he defeats it no matter what. However, it seems like Takeru managed to notice something with Byoduin's fighting style. Although there is no doubt that his skills are definitely amazing, but it seems like he is being too delicate based on Takeru's observation. Being more simple is fine, but Byodoin needs to remember that his opponent is a monster, not a human. So to help Byodoin a little, Takeru decided to wake up the dormant magical power within him. It is a temporary boost and it may feel like he is dying later, but Takeru is sure enough this will give Byodoin the strength to send this monster flying. Right after that blow, Byodoin himself couldn't even believe what happened. While he is still in shock, Takeru goes on to check the surroundings, and to his surprise, it seems like someone is watching them from afar. Somewhere around the area, it seems like the villain in this story has now finally decided to make sure that Takeru doesn't slip off their hands anymore. No matter what happens, they will make sure to do everything to get Takeru the Irregular, even if he is stronger than an S-class hunter. After all, he is still a human, so he should definitely have a weakness of his own. Now the question is, how did they manage to find out that Takeru was the same person who defeated not just the Cyclops, but also the Minotaur? Well, we will definitely find out about that sooner or later. Fast forward, summer breaks are almost here, and Takeru woke up from a bad dream of his past. As he starts to get out of breath, he somehow thinks he is back in that world again, but thankfully he wasn't. Since there are still classes, he rushes to prepare for school and eats his breakfast with his family downstairs. While eating, Takeru starts to wonder what are the things he is planning to do this summer break. Since he has already asked Byodoin to set up the meeting with Uesugi over the summer break, which Byodoin promised to do, Takeru hopes that he can find a clue on how to return this body to its original owner. Now that he thinks about it, if the original owner returns, will that mean he will finally disappear forever? Although this might cause a heavy feeling for some, Takeru isn't bothered about it anymore, considering he has already died once before. At this point, he just wanted to have peace. And then all of a sudden, his contemplation was interrupted when his parents went on to worriedly ask him if he was okay, considering his face looked really pale. To avoid worrying his parents, he just went on to say that he just had a bad dream, and nothing too serious at all. But it seems like his father is still worrying about it. After all they know is that Takeru went as far as to experience memory loss, so this could be a sign of some other illness, and they can't stomach anything else happening to their son anymore. Seeing this reaction caused Takeru to smile, since the parental love the real Takeru's parents give off is indeed unmatched. That is why as quickly as possible, he wanted to give this body back no matter what. But it seems like his parents wouldn't allow him to get to school without getting checked up at all. So instead of attending classes, Takeru was excused so that he could have his checkup at the hospital. There he was able to come across those hunters from the Wind Guard party. Seeing Takeru also shocked them a bit, as they wouldn't have expected they would come across each other again. As it turns out, the party was actually sent here to get their treatments, and it seems like they are now allowed to go home already. Seeing Chika made Takeru wonder if she really didn't say a word about him to the others. With the tense look on her face to the point that she is already fidgeting, it is concluded that she didn't at all. As everyone starts to get a bit awkward, Chika breaks the silence saying that she's just so happy about them all being okay. So to avoid getting asked, he rushes to leave as fast as she can. Meanwhile, Gato revealed that he knew Takeru was the one who saved Chika that day. He even went on to state that he is from Kazumi City, and they as a group wanted to protect the city no matter what. The group has been together ever since childhood, but to think that it all ended up like that makes Gato furious. However, he also made this his motivation to become even stronger. He promises that next time, it will be him who will save the city and Chika. But instead of admitting that he is really the boy who saved Chika, Takeru acts all confused, and Gato immediately gets the reason as to why. However, he reminds Takeru that if he is in trouble, he can always count on Gato and the team no matter what. So if he encounters problems in the future, he can always ask the group for help. Before leaving, Gato went on to say his thank you to Takeru, since if it was not for him, they would not be able to see Chika anymore. After a couple of minutes or so, his parents then also said goodbye as well, since they still needed to get back to work. Takeru immediately assures them that he will be fine, so there's no need to worry at all. He will also go home and take it easy, so they should get back to work now. On the way home, Takeru managed to notice that a lot of people were being too nice around him. They express gratitude or worry. Although they are saying it directly to him, he somehow thinks that it feels so wrong to accept it, considering he is not the real owner of this body. On top of that, he also feels like there is a sense of discomfort. That is why, until Takeru gets back, he will make sure to protect those people to his heart's intent. With everything he has, he wants to do something about the situation. Since he can't do much now, he hopes that summer break finally comes. To his surprise, it seems like some hunters were able to hear him saying those words, but instead of talking to them, Takeru chooses to ignore the two as much as possible. However, the hunters are quite persistent about it, introducing themselves as Yashio and To. They are A-rank hunters who work for the S-rank guild Ouroboros, and they have come here under the orders of their leader. If Takeru thinks about it, Sakura did mention to him before that there is a guild called Ouroboros, and these people are looking into him. This group is prominent in all of Japan, but has a lot of bad rumors swirling around them. That is why, as much as possible, it is best to avoid them at all times. So, as Sakura advised him to do, Takeru kept on ignoring them until the two showed a picture to Takeru, indicating that they would go that far just to have a talk with him. So, to avoid involving others in this whole situation, Takeru ended up giving the two what they wanted. At a restaurant, they went on to show off some documents, confusing Takeru as to why. As it turns out, these are the conditions under which they welcome him to Ouroboros. As he checks on it, the conditions are quite nice, with him already being offered an executive position and an annual 50 million annual income and more. At the back of his mind, if he ever met these guys at the very beginning, he would probably hate all the hunters. That is why he is glad he met Sakura first. Since he has no plans on joining that particular guild, he went on to immediately state that he declines the offer, as he doesn't want to be a hunter at all. So if that's the case, To and Yashio have no choice but to make him agree by force. With a poker face, Takeru tells the two that they are being quite violent, but no matter what, they still plan to land a hit on Takeru no matter what. But even if their weapons are far more advanced, Takeru's skills are just as top-notch as both of them combined. However, no matter what, the two still don't want to give up, with them even stating that they will just hold back enough not to kill him at all. However, it seems like Takeru has good reflexes, so he can easily dodge one attack after another. That is why Yashio plans to firstly stop that movement so that Takeru can end up getting caught off guard. But despite them joining hands to take this boy down, it seems like Takeru is just so powerful like an S-rank hunter. So in the end, using his protection guard power, Takeru always manages to not get hit by the two at all. No matter what they do from punching to kicking, they still don't get to land a hit on Takeru at all. So in the end, they both end up getting exhausted. At the back of Takeru's mind, these guys don't seem to mind using those anti-monster skills in public. Since they are now desperate to win, Yashio just went on to threaten Takeru, saying that since using their power would bear zero results, then as planned, they will now just do the hostage tactic. However, to Takeru's surprise, it seems like they got the wrong guy, considering it was Araki who they have been surveilling all this time, not Takeru. But since it has already gone too far, Takeru also decided to take care of the person observing Araki as well. While To and Yashio are down, a phone call from their leader starts, so Takeru goes on to pick it up himself. Immediately, he went on to ask what a leader from such a large guild wants from a civilian like him. Straightforward, the boss went on to state that he wants Takeru to be part of their team. And since Takeru refuses to do so, the boss jokingly warns him that if he wants that, then he has no choice but to report Takeru to the Hunter Association. But in the end, it seems like the boss has no plans on doing so. After all, he wants Takeru to exist as a secret weapon from here on out, so he will go out of his way to teach him that there are no obligations involved. Since the boss knows that Takeru wouldn't agree with him at all, he goes on to send a picture of Takeru's parents lying in bed. Immediately, the young man starts to get worried for his parents, so the boss assures him that there is no need to worry about him since all he did was give them poison. But the catch is that the poison can't possibly be cured by this world's medicine. The only thing that could save his parents is if the boss hands over the antidote. But of course, as expected, this will only happen if Takeru agrees to accept his conditions. For them to be able to talk this out, the boss asks Takeru to head to his place alone, which Takeru fully understands considering he knows himself that bringing back up will just make things slow for him. After checking on his parents who are now at the hospital, Takeru immediately went to the boss's place. As soon as he got there, Akida, the boss's assistant, went on to guide him where to go. While they were on the way to the meeting room, Akida went on to inform Takeru that such restaurants are used as bases all over Japan, and the one that he was at before was also one of theirs. You may think they will have their meeting in some normal room, but turns out that is not the case. As soon as they get inside an empty room, Akida informs Takeru that the boss is waiting for him on the other side of what looks like a black hole. Without hesitation, Takeru went on to step inside, only to be welcomed by a bunch of monsters. It turns out that these monsters are creatures that the boss is controlling. No matter what he says, for sure these monsters will do everything he says. At this point, Takeru finally realizes that all that has been happening badly in the city for the past day is the boss's handiwork. Surprisingly, the boss didn't even deny that at all. He even went on to state that it was just to test Takeru. Aside from that, he also finds it funny that Gato keeps on crying after the incident, which is why he can't stop doing it again and again. Blood is boiling and confusion starts to strike. Takeru went on to ask if this was the boss's goal all this time. Without hesitation, the boss states that he did all of this to tear it all down. From all of these damn rules, together with the guilds and hunters that follow them, the boss aims to take them down once and for all. He will tear it all down and rule this country himself, together with his monsters. However, Takeru thinks this is impossible, since no matter how many monsters he tries to get involved in the situation, things will also be taken control of. However, that is not the case for the boss at all. It seems like he has already considered all the consequences, so even if an S-rank reinforcement or control comes in for help, the boss already has other trump cards in hand. Then surprisingly, the boss somehow handed over the antidote to Takeru, which shocked the kid a bit. According to him, he already planned to give it to Takeru after he had shown him the view. After all, he doesn't have any intention of making Takeru his enemy at all. However, it seems like Takeru doesn't believe this at all, considering the boss already kidnapped his parents. But instead of discussing the problem, the boss went on to state that he completely understood Takeru's feelings of wanting to hide his power. But if he thinks about it, it just seems so unfair that people of power like Takeru have to live that way. For years, people like Takeru have continuously been collared and kept in captivity, using public opinion as a shield. So in short, nobody will accept people like Takeru. Considering other people wouldn't understand this, the boss asks Takeru for what reason he has to hold power. The boss honestly believes that Takeru wants to go wild. That is why he wants to offer the kid a hand so that he can use that power of his to take over the whole world. Without even thinking twice, Takeru went on to throw the antidote to the ground while boldly stating that he refused to accept the boss's offer. As it turns out, Takeru already found out that the poison the boss used was basilisks, so he pretty much cured his parents already. Hearing this surprised the boss, considering this poison hasn't surfaced in this world yet. So how the hell did Takeru even know about its existence? Takeru then boldly asks the boss to fight him with fuel. Since he came all this way to nail the boss down, Takeru honestly believes that his power only exists to protect his precious peaceful days. So if possible, he wants the boss to come at him, since those who dare to touch what's dear to him will be thoroughly crushed by him. This excites the boss. Knowing that he was strong himself, he also didn't hesitate to attack himself. With the use of his power, the boss went on to order the monsters to attack Takeru all at once. Using his flare burst, Takeru ended up burning them all to pieces in one go. However, this doesn't stop the boss from fighting at all. He is now even more motivated to keep going until Takeru runs out of power. With that said, the boss went on to show off his summoning skills and is now forcibly summoning monsters and forcing them to obey with this magic. By the looks of it, Takeru immediately realizes that this man is no ordinary man at all. There's a big chance that he is an S-rank hunter, so Takeru can't possibly go easy on him at all. Using the best of his powers, Takeru tries to send off attacks one after another. So, the boss can't possibly deny the fact that Takeru is such a gifted irregular indeed, considering his attacks are more flashy than most people. Since Takeru is not an easy opponent as well, the boss went on to call for his assistant Akida, as it is now time to reveal their trump card. With Akida's signal, the boss is now ready to finally show off the monster he has been keeping, an 8-headed monster called Hydra. As soon as the monster got out, Takeru himself was a bit stunned, since this was the first time he had seen this monster. He somehow can't believe the fact that something like this can live in this world. As he went on to initiate his first attack, the monster didn't show any pain at all. So this gave Takeru the idea that this one in particular doesn't seem to react to pain at all. But as he continues his attack, he finds out that each head feels pain individually. However, the challenging part here is the fact that it can regenerate. Since Hydra is an immortal monster, no matter how strong a hunter is, there's no way they can win against this monster. However, Takeru thinks that there is no way there is such a thing as immortality. Since he has already fought against these types of opponents all the time, it would be much okay if the boss doesn't look down on him just yet, since there is still a chance that things would turn the other way around. Since he believes that there is no such thing as an immortal living being, if the monster keeps on regenerating each time it is attacked, the only way it can be defeated is if he blows it away all at once. However, it seems like Hydra is much smarter than Takeru thinks it is. For some reason, Hydra is trying to prevent him from gathering his mana, which Takeru finds pretty annoying. So for him to be able to win this fight, he must take note of everything from now on. As he tries to freeze Hydra's heads after cutting them, Takeru finds out that it takes about 3 seconds for them to regenerate. That is why he plans on blasting magic that is fast to cast at it during those 3 seconds. However, Takeru feels this is not enough just yet. So as much as he can, he tries to find out if this monster has any other weaknesses. After a couple of seconds, he finds out that this monster's weakness is his tail. Using his power, he went on to knock it down in one go. Seeing his trump card fall in front of him seems like a dream to the boss, but this doesn't mean he will give up already. He is even more pumped up than ever. However, no matter how much he tries to fight back, it seems like Takeru is just much stronger than him. So even if he went on to use his other deadly monsters to attack Takeru, he still ended up getting beaten up as well. Since her master is in a tough situation right now, Akida decided to also step in to help. At first, Takeru thought that Akida was a normal monster he could just defeat in one go. But to his surprise, it seems like speculation was right all along. As it turned out, Akida is a demon, who is quite powerful than he thought. The fact that Takeru knows about demons somehow amazes Akida, as she wasn't expecting that someone from this world would even know about their existence. This even made her think that Takeru might be the man that is talked about in the prophecy. Meanwhile, Takeru stays unfazed as he reminisces about the time he was still in the other world, where they always tell him to kill demons no matter what. For some reason, Akida also felt this overwhelming fear after seeing Takeru like this. It is as if she is facing the demon lord. So she starts to wonder to herself, what should she do now? Then all of a sudden, the boss went on to give her permission to do whatever she wanted. Considering everything he has now is gone, all the monsters in the Hydra are dead. On top of that, he has no mana left either, so it is better to leave everything in Echidna's hands for now. This gave Echidna no choice but to go ahead with her plan, which she was planning to do after the hunters got wiped out. Hearing this shocked the boss a bit, considering this meant she was also planning to take him down. But since he can't do much about it anymore, he would just do everything he could to give Echidna the time she needs. As much as he could, he went on to stop Takeru from moving an inch. On the other hand, Echidna went on to work on her plan on the side. Since there is a dimensional wall that separates the two worlds, a small hole like a gate cannot do a lot of damage at all. But what will happen if the dimensional wall is gone? With that said, Echidna went on to give birth to what she calls her child, Typhos. This child of hers, as she calls it, will be the one who will kill even God. While this is all happening, a slit suddenly opens to connect both worlds. People who are trying to go on with their day start getting startled now that a bunch of gates are suddenly appearing here and there. On the other hand, it seems like Echidna is also starting to feel the changes in herself as well. Now, it will just be a matter of time before we find out if things will end up the way Echidna wanted it to be, or will Takeru win this fight nonetheless. Now that Echidna is starting to rampage here and there, Takeru needs to prepare himself since Echidna is not that simple to defeat at all. But before we dive into all of that, let us now turn back to the time when everything started. 10 years ago at the age of 13, Boss Hebikawa entered his first gate. Although carrying everyone's bag is pretty heavy, the boss at that time kept his head up high, since he knew to himself that he was in his senior's good care. Well, that was what he thought at first until things started to change. During the time they were chased after some monsters, his seniors ended up leaving him behind, only telling him that since he has entered the gate at such a young age, he must already be strong enough to manage on his own. At that moment, the young man thought that it would be his end. However, it seems like things didn't end up the way he thought it would. At that time, Echidna was the demon who was chasing after them, and seeing young Hebikawa being left behind somehow amazes her a bit. Since this kid has already had so much, Echidna decided to save him. But there is an exchange, and that exchange is only between the two. After that traumatizing event when he finally got to the hospital, he poured out all of his exhaustion, asking his teammates at that time why they used him as their bait, and the fact that they won't get any penalty just makes everything worse for him. His teammates then went on to reason out to the organization that they didn't technically use him as a bait, as it was all an accident. Since one of their teammates died, the others started making him feel guilty for opening up. On top of that, since his testimony cannot be confirmed now, nothing can be done anymore, as those are the rules of the association. So in the end, he went on to agree to accept Echidna's terms. He will now crush the Hunters Association, as long as Echidna gives him the power. He promises to give his everything to ensure that they win. That is why now that he and Akida are already halfway through, he can't help but feel a bit relieved. Until he saw that Takeru was still alive and okay. But this doesn't mean Takeru is not having a hard time. He actually can't deny the fact that Akida is strong, considering no power is affecting her at all. Since he is having quite a hard time as well, he knows that if he wants to win this, he needs to find Akida's weaknesses as well. For him to do so, he needed to dodge each attack as much as he could. Amid their fight, Akida went on to state that she and her child have now been united with one another and have become the strongest being there is. Right now, even others will not be able to ignore her at all. At this point, it seems like Takeru's body is reaching the limit, so if he doesn't end this fast, he might meet his defeat. Akida herself also thinks that there is no way Takeru's attack will ever work on her at all. However, this doesn't mean Takeru would give up that easily at all. So using his aerial burst, he went on to slice off Akida's head in one go. As it turns out, Takeru was able to notice Akida's weakness. Since she is in control of the monster, it is easier to deal with this Hydra. However, it seems like Akida herself wouldn't give up that easily as well. At this point, her mind is starting to erode, as she is now unable to control the power of Typhos. So in hopes that the tides will be in her favor now, she tries to threaten Takeru, saying that she will go after his family and everyone dear to him. Since Takeru doesn't want anyone to get involved in this mess as much as possible, especially his family, he just goes on to give Akida the angry look. For some reason, Akida starts to feel this fear that she never thought she would ever feel anymore. She now starts to wonder she has already obtained this strong power, so just why is she still afraid of a mere kid? This caused her to remember those hurtful days when her family was the one who looked down on her. As tears start to pour down her eyes, she tries to get a hold of herself, as she knows that this weakness is only in her mind. She was indeed weak back then, but now it is different. That is why as much as possible, she will try to take revenge on all people who made fun of her. She will do everything to make them feel despair. This is why, to do that, she would need to kill this kid who she thinks is from the prophecy that everyone has been looking for, even if it means she dies trying. Meanwhile, it seems like Takeru has been remembering the time he was living in the other world as well. There was one moment when he and Edelweiss are resting in the woods when Edelweiss excitedly informs him that this time's journey had a lot of people going on with them. So this means their journey would be quite lovely for sure. But Edelweiss still wonders if it was okay to refuse, considering everyone even offered to join in on the party to subjugate the Demon Lord. Immediately, Takeru went on to state that anyone has the right to do so, considering it is quite a dangerous mission. Plus, Takeru also thinks that everyone would not be able to keep up with his pace, and Edelweiss couldn't agree more. If her memory serves her right, there was even a time when Takeru left his horse and started running all of a sudden. On top of that, there was even a time when he decided to climb a cliff, so for sure no one would be able to keep up with his pace at all. Aside from that, Edelweiss also knows that Takeru doesn't trust everyone at all, even if all they do is compliment his power and whatnot. It seems like Takeru just feels more at ease being alone, but no matter how much he denies it, he indeed loves when Edelweiss stays by his side, taking care of him when things don't go the way he expects them to. Aside from that, thanks to Edelweiss, his injuries always heal up on time. That is why no matter what happens, he would not allow this event happening now to back him down at all. Although he only scratched the surface of Typhos, doesn't mean he would not go all in anymore. Now that he already knows Echidna's real body location, all that is left for him to do is kill her with all his might. But since his body is starting to lose a bit of energy, his movements have now become a bit dull, and Echidna manages to notice it. Even though Takeru knows that it is simple to deal with this woman, since his body has now reached its limits, he can't rapidly fire strong spells anymore. But this doesn't worry him at all, considering he knows that it is the same for Echidna. Typhos right now is likely sucking up her life force and is using that move. If it's like that, then there's one more thing that he needs to do. Since Echidna is quite the observant one, she immediately realizes that Takeru has figured out the source of Typhos' power. So it is futile to wait for her death, and it is also taking the life force of the humans of this world as well. On top of that, Typhos' followers are already overflowing in Japan, so no matter what Takeru does now, everything will end up dead anyway. But instead of him stopping trying, Takeru went on to think that if that is the truth, then he needs to quickly return to the other side. But once he kills her, he wonders if he will be able to move at all. At this point, Takeru doesn't know what to do anymore. Well, as it turns out, Echidna is quite aware of the fact that if Takeru kills her, Typhos will go out of control. That is maybe the reason why Takeru won't kill her at all. However, it seems like her speculation is wrong since Takeru doesn't show any signs of giving up at all. Meanwhile, in Tokyo, Japan, the guilds are now working hard to make sure that everything is under control as much as possible. Gato and his teammates, in particular, are trying to be optimistic in these dark times so that people wouldn't panic at all. Then there are those hunters that come from Oran Academy. As they went on to fight the monsters, they kept on shouting Sakura's name, completely showcasing how proud they were of their role model. They went on to state that they exist to protect the peace and the citizens of this town from fiendish monsters. Byodoin is quite confident until a monster gets the grasp of him and his teammates start panicking all of a sudden. Thankfully, Sakura came in time before things got worse. So even though Byodoin looks like an S-rank hunter already, he knows to himself the S-rank is still a distant dream. Meanwhile, Sakura seems like going from one place to another to make sure that everything is well taken care of. Now that she has already finished fighting the ones in the central area of the city, she now goes on to the next. People just couldn't believe that Sakura possessed this much power. At the back of Sakura's mind, no matter what comes her way, she will defeat it no matter what. On the other hand, it seems like Takeru is also doing his best to make sure he doesn't get defeated at all. Even Echidna is shocked at Takeru's power, as she has never seen anything like this before. Now that her underlings were evaporating one by one, she couldn't help but get a bit worried. Amid this tense fight, Takeru suddenly remembers what Edelweiss asked of him before. As it turns out, the reason why he was unable to trust his former men before is because he is self-aware of his strength that surpasses other people. So he distanced himself from them before they could do that with him. He was too proud of his power to look around himself. That is why, since he already learned his lesson, he went on to share it with Hebikawa. As per Takeru, the vast majority of people will not become powerful, but if he looks around properly, he will find people that are not like that. That is why Takeru is very much thankful for the two, as they were able to make him realize that he is not fighting alone at all. Since things are going a bit out of control for Echidna, she finally decides to sacrifice herself so that they can finally put an end to this with their final blow. However, no matter how much sacrifice she makes, Takeru always ends up winning in the end. Since Takeru got a hold of the whole situation, which was something Echidna wasn't expecting at all, the dimensional wall is not breaking all of a sudden. It seems like the demon couldn't believe the fact that Takeru didn't simply kill Typhos, but he also erased Typhos' whole existence. So she can easily say that the power he possesses surpasses what humans are capable of. As Takeru walks towards Echidna, the demon can't help but get a bit afraid of him. Well, it seems like Takeru would like to ask her something before he kills her all at once. Immediately, Takeru asks her what this prophecy she has been talking about. Struggling, she went on to state that it is about a power like Takeru, but before she can even continue what she is saying, it seems like her wound is not regenerating anymore, meaning she is already dying. Seeing the demon die aches Hebikawa's heart. After all, they've been partners for a long time already, so letting go of such a bond is not easy at all. At this moment, Hebikawa starts to reminisce about the time he has spent with her, all the bad and the good. So seeing her like this seems like a punishment for him. However, instead of looking all sad, Echidna tries to keep a happy look on her face so that Hebikawa doesn't feel bad at all. But no matter what she does, Hepikawa's heart is already broken, to the point that he can't anymore control his anger and is now about to kill Takeru no matter what. However, before he can even try doing so, a group of unknown people come onto the scene, shocking Takeru as he wasn't expecting any other guests anymore. With such calmness in his voice, he went on to ask the group for their identity. Without even hesitating, the three went on to introduce themselves as Rare, Sukuna, and the Dark Knight. Just one look at them and Takeru already knows that these people are strong, considering they didn't falter at all. And he knows to himself if he exerts any more power and fights, his body will break for sure. So Takeru wonders what step should he take next. Out of nowhere, the three went on to assure Takeru that they wouldn't do anything wrong at all, so he didn't need to be so on guard. They then went on to reason that they only came here to take care of the traitor, aka Akida, so they technically don't have any intentions of fighting with Takeru at all. Aside from that, they are also here to get something that they refer to as a trade secret. That is why as soon as they got their hands on it, they immediately initiated going back home. However, knowing Takeru, he wouldn't allow them to leave just like that at all. But since Rare knows that Takeru is quite tired, he just tells them to take it easy for now. For sure, they will meet again in the near future, so there is no need to rush at all. Seeing demons made Takeru wonder if this was the same other world that he knew of, but he knows for a fact that is not the case at all. Meanwhile, back in the city, it seems like many people have already died. The damage done due to this large outbreak was unprecedented. The leader behind this incident was quickly arrested by the Hunter Association as well, so people should be at ease by now. For some reason, Hepikawa is not resisting at all. Maybe because he has now finally felt guilty for what he has done. While in transit to the station, it seems like Hepikawa has been contemplating what Takeru had said to him a while ago. At the back of his mind, he has been looking into the association, and they have never been on the side of justice at all, so he is sure he doesn't have long to live. Thankfully, it seems like his teammates are now here to rescue him. As the police car got hit by one of Hepikawa's men's explosives, they easily got to their boss within seconds. But before they start to initiate their attack, the boss reminds everyone that only those ready to die come with him, as they will finish this once and for all. Meanwhile, at Kazumi Municipal Hospital, it seems like Takeru's parents are now well, so they will head their way back home. Outside the hospital, Takeru immediately felt the heat of the sun, indicating that summer break was almost around the corner indeed. On the other hand, it seems like the three demons have also finally made their way back home. Immediately, they went on to inform the princess that as she had ordered them to do, they had already dealt with Echidna, whom they term now as a traitor. Aside from that, they have also recovered the stolen item, Pandora. But that is not the exciting part just yet. Rare also went on to inform the princess that they had also let a man go, who seemed to be from the prophecy of the Messiah. It seems like the princess is quite happy with this decision, as she thinks it is not yet time at all. Sukuna, on the other hand, is starting to throw tantrums once more. It seems like she really wants to play with Takeru. However, since things are not yet that safe for them, it is safe if they just let Takeru be for now. Meanwhile, at the Hunters Association Japanese HQ, the heads are now having a meeting regarding what happened the other day. S-Rank Sogo Renyo just went on to inform everyone that he had already contacted all 50 S-Rank Hunters to convene here for an emergency. However, it seems like only 5 people came, which honestly surprised him like hell. At this moment, he starts to wonder if these hunters don't care about what happens to Japan. Now that things are getting out of control, Sakura went on to tell the leader that since the people here responded to the summons, she doesn't think it is good to keep talking about the others. S-Rank Saijo Karen also went on to state that getting people to gather on site in this day and age is just a bit primitive. The leader immediately went on to point out that they might talk about confidential stuff, so it can't be helped at all. However, instead of agreeing with the leader, Karen even went on to tease him, causing Sogo to feel more irritated than he already is. Since the Hunters Association is run by the government, if they use tax money to go to fancy inns or hotels, for sure they would immediately be kicked out from their jobs. But for Karen, no matter what the government says, the Hunters are still the ones who are protecting the people. However, it seems like Sogo doesn't like hearing this at all, as he is pro-government. Then on the other hand, it seems like the other Hunters are trying to loosen the tension a bit. S-Rank Hunter Igarashi Hideo went on to call out Hunter Hayabusa Tenku and started teasing him with Karen. This immediately made Tenku blush, as he wasn't expecting to be put in this kind of situation at all. However, it seems like he is not Karen's type at all. A kind guy who would do anything for others even if they are weak is not technically the man Karen is looking for. Hearing this made Tenku feel a bit down, since this technically means he just got rejected without even confessing. Now that Tenku is feeling bad about himself, Hideo tries to cheer him up, saying that his destined partner is waiting for him somewhere for sure. While they are all in chaotic mode, the Hunter Association president, Akehoshi Mayoi, comes into the scene. To Sogo's surprise, it seems like everyone started acting all of a sudden. With that said, the president started the meeting immediately. First, they'll discuss the terrorist act they had the other day, which was led by Hepikawa. In that regard, the president involves everyone who, upon investigation, they have confirmed the involvement of demons. This confused the Hunters as they had never heard of such a thing before. So the president went on to tell them that demons are people who exist outside of the gates, so perhaps they can also call them the Otherworlders. Some of the hunters like Tenku already knew there were signs of civilization inside the gates, but he starts to wonder, wasn't it all in ruins already? However, it seems like Hideo thinks it is natural for them to not know, considering these demons only appeared once before, more than 20 years ago. They were able to defeat him and never appeared again. So to be more precise, demons only appear like people, as they are merciless monsters themselves. With that said, based on what Hideo has stated, it will be impossible to establish relations. However, if they announce this to everyone, there will be people who will disagree with them. Aside from that, there will also be people who will try to go and meet these demons for sure. Since they can't predict how things will be, they plan to hide the existence of demons for now. And that is why the truth will be disclosed just to those S-Class, and a system will be set up. This is why they need to participate in this cover-up as much as possible. Hearing all this caused Sakura to wonder if her mom and dad got killed by a demon, not a humanoid monster. As she was about to ask more questions about it, the president went on to discuss the next topic, which is Takeru. Seeing Takeru's photo on the big screen sends shivers to Sakura's spine. She wasn't expecting that the association would already know about it, but it seems like the president has his ways indeed. According to him, Takeru destroyed the Ouroboros guild himself. This made Tenku wonder, considering according to the reports they received, Ebikawa was caught by the association's hunters, so how can Takeru possibly defeat them all on his own? So one of the officers went on to state that by the time they got to the location, Ebikawa was already down. That is why they immediately checked the CCTV cameras and found Takeru. Since he does not belong to the Hunters Association, they are now investigating what sort of individual he is. So if any of them have information about him, the president would like them to gather it all in one. However, as the meeting went on, it seemed like nobody shared anything at all, causing the president to smile all of a sudden. As it turns out, the president just called for the four, not the entire organization, and Sogo was his accomplice throughout this plan. And that is why he wants Sogo to keep it a secret as of now, since he still has some plans in mind. Now it is a matter of time before we know whether the president has something up his sleeves. If there is, what could it possibly be? Meanwhile, it seems like Sakura is in deep confusion right now, and she was not expecting Takeru's name to come up in such a major event. At the back of her mind, no matter how much she tries to keep it under wraps, it seems like nothing works at all. Even if she does so much for Takeru's sake, it seems like Takeru himself is just too careless. At this point, she is now genuinely confused about whether Takeru does want to be hidden or not. But despite what happened, Sakura believes that Takeru has his reasons, which is why she plans to at least talk to him about it. So without hesitation, she immediately sends a message to Takeru, telling him to contact her when he sees this message. Then all of a sudden, the president enters the scene, assuring Sakura that there is no need for her to worry at all. It seems like the president already knew about the fact that the cause of the incident regarding Ouroboros was that they poisoned Takeru's parents. That is why there is no need for Sakura to worry at all, since the Hunter Association does not plan to do anything to Takeru at all. But for now, the president wants Sogo and the rest to solve this issue as much as possible, and the president wants only Sakura to know about this because she is friends with Takeru. Hearing this shocked Sakura, as she wasn't expecting the president to know much about it at all. But instead of thinking about how the president knew about this, Sakura starts to wonder if she is friends with Takeru at all, since in her perspective, they are not at all. As soon as the president left, a girl named Momiji came in looking cute, telling Sakura that she came here to get her. It seems like their grandfather is waiting for them. Then all of a sudden, Momiji started crying since this was the first time Sakura's work had calmed down, which meant they could finally spend time together after a long time. So to make it up for Momiji, Sakura went on to state that she will do anything Momiji likes, no matter what it is. Hearing this caused Momiji to feel happy, and as soon as she went on to show Sakura what she wanted, Sakura couldn't help but get shocked. The next day, Takeru decided to visit the mall as he had something to buy. As soon as he got there, he wasn't shocked to see that the whole place was crowded, as he was already expecting it, considering it was summer break already. But he had a lot of things he needed to buy, so he had to come here even though he didn't want to at all. It has only been a week since the incident, but the government sure restored buildings pretty quickly. So Takeru starts making his guess, that maybe this is due to that specialized restoration bureau under the Hunters Association or something. But instead of worrying about it now, he is glad that he was able to buy a new smartphone considering his old one got broken during the fight with Typhos. Now that he is on his way home, Takeru comes across some unexpected people, Momiji together with Sakura. It seems like the two went shopping as well. Although Takeru greeted Sakura with a big smile, Sakura seemed upset thinking about the fact that Takeru didn't respond to her message the other day. The angry look on Sakura's face is so apparent that Takeru starts getting a bit scared. So without hesitation, he went on to explain everything to Sakura, from how his phone broke to his buying a new one. On the other hand, it seems like Momiji is just observing her sister. Based on what she remembers the grandmother told them, Momiji can't help but speculate that Sakura must be in love with Takeru, considering how angry she is at him for ignoring her. So without thinking twice, Momiji went on to ask her if Takeru was her boyfriend. At first, Sakura is a bit shy hearing this, but since she has been wondering since yesterday if Takeru looks at her as a friend, she went on to go with Momiji's statement stating that they are indeed friends. Sakura thought that Takeru felt a bit awkward hearing this, but to her surprise, it seemed like he was even happy and honored at the fact that the most popular person at school was his friend. Since Momiji wants to know more about Sakura at school, she goes on to invite Takeru to join them in shopping, shocking the two, but instead of saying no, Takeru went on to grant Momiji's request for now. So in the end, the three went on to go shopping the whole day. On the other hand, it seemed like the Wind Guard's party is having lunch at a restaurant when they happened to notice Takeru and the two. Seeing the two together somehow shocked them, so they thought that maybe Takeru and Sakura were on a date. While the others look amused looking at the two, the leader of the group looks rather serious. Back to Takeru and Sakura, since it has been bothering her since earlier, while Momiji went on to ride the merry-go-round, Sakura went on to tell Takeru that it is not good to lie about her being liked by everyone at school. Although he is a bit scared to talk back to Sakura, Takeru went on to straightforwardly say that it is not exactly a lie at all. Hearing Takeru say this made Sakura realize that he is not a bad person after all. No matter what others may say, Sakura knows that Takeru just fought for his parents' well-being. So she is sure that he is a kind-hearted individual. Although the president said he was looking into Takeru, Sakura managed to notice that he was acting like he knew him before his incident. So she wonders, why is that? Questions just like, who is Takeru? Or if he has amnesia, start rushing to Sakura's mind. So even if they say that they are friends, she still thinks that she doesn't know the slightest thing about him. The rather serious conversation was interrupted when the ride Momiji hopped on suddenly stopped and she was nowhere to be found. Immediately, the two start to worry about him. But little do they know from Momiji's perspective that she wants to leave them by themselves so that they can confess their love for one another. While she hides, Momiji happens to notice a boy crying on the side, clearly lost and looking for his parents. So without hesitation, she went on to tell him that she'd help find his parents. Not a little while after, a gate break suddenly appears, causing everyone to panic. Since the whole place has now gone chaotic, Momiji immediately grabs the boy's hand and goes on to run away together as fast as they can. Meanwhile, it seems like Takeru and Sakura have now become even more worried for Momiji. While they are looking for her, the people in the park are relieved when they see Sakura since there is now a chance they can all be rescued. Without hesitation, they went on to ask her to hurry and take care of everything. But since her sister is nowhere to be found, Sakura can't seem to function properly. Since she can't pretty much talk right now, Takeru went to speak on her behalf. He asks everyone if they happen to see Sakura's little sister. To be more specific, Takeru went on to state some important details, like how Momiji is a 5-year-old girl wearing the same dress as her sister, as well as a ribbon on her head. Based on this information, some of the people remember that they happened to see her somewhere. As soon as Sakura heard that her sister went on to walk towards the gate break, she didn't waste a minute and immediately went there to check up on her. Meanwhile, it seems like Momiji stayed as calm as possible, considering there was a little boy scared for his life. In the back of her mind, she just tells the little boy that there's no need to worry about it, since her sister, Sakura, will take care of everything for sure. But it seems like the two are in a harder situation than Momiji has anticipated, as one of the monsters is now making its way toward them, ready to kill them on the spot. On the other hand, Sakura rushes towards where her sister is, remembering the time their parents died saving them. This gave her the motivation to look for her sister no matter what. If she loses Momiji as well, she can't possibly forgive herself anymore. Just right on time, the two managed to see Momiji in one alley, and it seemed like the monster was about to hit her already. But before it can do so, Takeru jumps right in, completely defeating it in one go. After taking care of everything they have to, Takeru and Sakura finally finish the day off, saving everyone. Aside from that, it seems like Sakura has also found the boy's parents, which is super great. Before they go their separate ways, Sakura goes on to apologize to Takeru for not staying calm even if she is a hunter. That is why he ends up needing to use his powers. Looking a bit shy, Takeru assured Sakura that there was no need to worry about it at all. Since she has always been looking out for him, maybe it is time for him to do her a favor as well. Hearing this calmed Sakura a little. On the other hand, Momiji also went on to thank Takeru for his help. If it wasn't because of him, she might already be dead by now. Takeru grabbed this chance to remind Momiji not to wander off like that on her own next time, since Sakura would end up worrying again. But Takeru also can't deny the fact that it is quite awesome how Momiji protected that boy without even flinching a bit. Hearing this made Momiji quite happy since this was the first time she had been praised. On the other hand, it seems like Sakura is still deep in her thoughts, wondering how the hell Takeru managed to know those moves earlier, as they belong to someone who has experienced a lot of battles. So without hesitation, she went on to directly ask him just who he was exactly. Since he doesn't want to doubt him anymore, she wants to know the truth, right here, right now. Feeling a bit of guilt for not telling Sakura more about him, Takeru was ready to tell her everything from now on forward. However, before he can even do so, Momiji interrupts their conversation, telling them both to get along. After watching a lot of television dramas, Momiji went on to suggest that for them to reconcile, they need to kiss just like how the actors do it. Hearing this innocent child making such a suggestion just made Sakura smile, since they had quite a long day already. Sakura asked Takeru if he wanted to walk home with them without thinking twice. Takeru agreed, saying yes. On the way home, Takeru manages to notice that Sakura and her sister are quite close, which is something he is a bit envious of. However, Sakura feels that because of this, she ends up spoiling Momiji a lot. Nonetheless, it doesn't bother her at all, since Momiji is her only treasure now. So no matter what happens, she will make sure to give her sister the best life there is. She also went on to share that their parents were killed when Momiji was very little, so she's not familiar with their parents' love at all. Since Sakura was a weak child then, Momiji ended up growing up feeling alone. As a result, Sakura started feeling regret, which is why she decided to become strong. That is why she became a hunter for a rather personal reason. At the back of her mind, if she is strong, she can protect those she wants to protect, so Momiji won't have to cry anymore. But like so, she would also like it if that led to a world where everyone could laugh freely. Although she knows this sounds like the world is an afterthought, for her it is not. On top of that, Takeru also went on to tell Sakura something he thinks he would not be able to tell her the next time they see each other. With such a wide smile on his face, he went on to state that he was glad that he was able to meet her, as she let him experience things beyond imagination. He also went on to state that his memories might be returning, so there's a big chance that the memories he has made during this short time will probably be gone. This confused Sakura a bit as it didn't add up at all. So Takeru went on to state that it is because he is not the real Takeru. However, it seems like Sakura didn't get the point, as she just went on to state that even if he forgets about her, she will still remember him as her friend. The next day, since Takeru plans on meeting Uesugi Kikyo, he and Byodoin are now on their way to Niigata, and it seems like Takeru is not enjoying Byodoin's company at all. Meanwhile, at the sacred mountains of Yomotsukade, Uesugi is seen. As soon as they got to the village, the two immediately hiked the mountains, and Takeru was a bit surprised at the fact that his body felt rather light, even after hiking for hours now. It seems like these woods have a dense amount of mana circulating it, which Takeru managed to notice himself. According to Byodoin, these mountains were a favorable spot to build a place for a temple, since it is a place that connects to a different world that is not through a gate. There have been tales of yokai, like Oni coming out at some point in time. All of those comes from these dragon veins that exist in places like this. So everything here has a shared point of origin, so if Byodoin would be blunt about it, this place has all sorts of dangerous beings and it is only known by S-class hunters and a few distinguished families. However, there is no need to worry at all since if monsters find their way in, there's someone to take care of it. In Japan, exorcists are popular, but the Uesugi family was one that has protected Japan since the old times. But why did Byodoin refer to them as was? Takeru wonders. Well, it seems like they were destroyed 10 years ago by a monster that appeared in this area. That monster was sealed by Uesugi Tsubasa, Kikyo's sister. But in the end, she ended up offering her life for it. This means the only one who has survived was none other than Kikyo alone. That is why she has been protecting the seal for all this time, which also means that her photo appearing in a magazine is a rare moment indeed. Now that Byodoin mentioned it, it seems like Takeru just has the idea that Kikyo has that calm vibe to her, to which Byodoin immediately disagrees. As the two start discussing even more, Kikyo suddenly appears out of nowhere, beating Byodoin up for talking badly behind her back. This caused Takeru to look at her from a different angle. Since she is now taking care of Byodoin, she went on to take care of Takeru as well. Before starting the fight, she tells Takeru to show her what he got. And to her surprise, it seems like Takeru is not ordinary at all. If he was an average hunter, then her first attack would have been the end of him already. Aside from that, she's also quite surprised at the fact that Takeru's counterattacks are pretty good. From the way he hardens his arm and waits for his stance to break, Kikyo is certain that Takeru is used to battles indeed. But she still thinks that Takeru has no chance with her until she sees what Takeru can do. So before things get out of control, Kikyo went on to state that this is already enough, since if they just continue any further, it would go beyond a test. Since she has already seen Takeru's potential, they should stop the fight now. Considering she has already heard a lot about him, Kikyo went on to ask him some questions just to know more. Since Takeru is not a hunter at all, she wonders why has he come all the way here just to see her. Without hesitation, Takeru went on to state that he wants her to exorcise a ghost that is possessing him right now. He goes on to state that he was in a bit of an accident that resulted in a loss of memory and probably gave him the ability to use these powers through possession. That is why he wants to go back to his normal self. Hearing this made Kikyo realize that Takeru is not ordinary at all. Since Kikyo doubts Takeru would lie after coming this far, she just asks to confirm if Takeru wants to exorcise that ghost inside of him or not. Since it seems like he badly wants to, Kikyo has no choice but to invite him to her mansion so that they can talk more. After a long day, Takeru is a bit exhausted from the fight and Kikyo's family's hospitality. So to rest up a little, he went on to take a bath in the spring to relax. Takeru suddenly felt a presence. Surprisingly, it is none other than Kikyo. Scared for his life, Takeru tried to keep silent as much as possible, until he hears Kikyo talking to herself. asking why she is not good at socializing at all. It seems like what happened earlier to her and Takeru bothered her a little, so as much as possible, she tells herself to keep trying, all for the sake of the Uesugi family. Hearing all of this caused Takeru to glance at her a bit, wondering why Kiko is so different from earlier. Because of this small move, the S-rank hunter managed to notice his presence, so without hesitation, she immediately sent off a deadly attack. But as soon as she saw that it was just Takeru, she stopped immediately, with her cheeks heating up from embarrassment. The next day, Takeru was expecting that she would get angry at him, but surprisingly, she seemed cool about what happened. In fact, she even went on to greet Takeru good morning. This confused the boy so much to the point that he started stuttering. Since she can feel the awkward air, she immediately goes blunt to Takeru, asking him if he is acting like this because of what happened yesterday. So that Kiko doesn't get the wrong idea, Takeru went on to apologize immediately, making Kiko laugh a little as she was just teasing him. She then also assured him that it was her fault in the first place, so there was no need to worry at all. Since this is a new day, it is now time for them to know more about the ghost possessing Takeru. For her to be able to investigate more, she asks Takeru to close his eyes and focus, as he listens to his heartbeat. To her surprise, it seems like Takeru is doing quite better than she expected. With this tremendous concentration, it feels like no sound will ever affect him at all. However, as she thinks about Takeru's story, she knows right off the bat that he was lying from the start. As a member of the Uesugi family who serve divine gods and can discern such things, his story just feels off. Yet it doesn't feel like this kid is telling a lie at all. So to see what is really going on, Kiko needs to take a good look at what's inside him. As soon as she got inside Takeru's mind, she couldn't deny the fact that his mind looked calm and gentle. But she does feel some sort of sadness as well. As she wonders deeply, she is shocked at what she sees. That is why as soon as she got out of Takeru's mind, she immediately knew that with the power, there was no way Takeru was just a normal citizen, just like what he claimed to be. So no matter what happens, she badly needs to find out who the hell Takeru really is. Meanwhile, Takeru is now confused about what's going on, as it seems like Kiko is really trying to kill him. Without any choice, Takeru needs to use protective measures to make sure he doesn't get killed at all. Seeing Takeru go, Kiko concludes that Takeru is indeed the strongest hunter she has met so far. Since this has gone a bit too far, Takeru has no choice but to fight back as he can't possibly hold back anymore. As she got swept away by Takeru's power, Kiko somehow stopped fighting back all of a sudden. Well, it seems like her ribbon got lost while fighting. Since it is a gift from her family, she can't afford to lose it no matter what. Now that it is already gone, she has no choice but to cry her eyes out. Takeru on the other hand looks bothered, as he thinks it was his fault. So as much as possible, he tries to calm her down, but it seems like nothing is working at all. Meanwhile, somewhere at the area of the seal, it seems like something grim is about to take place. 10 years ago when the Uesugi family was still alive, they reminded themselves that since the family has risked their lives to pave the way, they can't possibly let it go to waste at all. So it is now time for them to act for the sake of everyone. No matter how hard things get, the family looks rather calm knowing that Uesugi Tsubaki, the family's head, is always there to protect them. They respected her with all of their hearts, especially Kiko, who was still so young at that time. Tsubaki is known as the clingy sister who would do everything for the sake of her sister. That is why on the last day they saw each other, Tsubaki hugged Kiko so tightly, assuring her that no matter what happened, Kiko could always depend on her. Tsubaki also stated that even though Kiko is a bit clumsy with her words, she is still proud as a sister that Kiko was able to properly convey her feelings. She also went to thank her for always worrying a ton about them, which is why she promised her that there was no way she would die that easily. No matter what happens, Tsubaki promises to not die until she sees Kiko in a wedding dress. But it seems like things have already changed. Now that Tsubaki is dead, all that Kiko has of her is their memories together. Kiko describes her sister as the sunshine in the family. People naturally gathered around her. By herself, Kiko would just be a recluse, but with Tsubaki, just being there gave her courage. But that day, the Uesugi family members who left to seal a rampaging monster never returned home. Osandake is a harsh place to live for ordinary people without protection, so the servants had to go down the mountains, and Kiko can still remember the dejected look on their faces as they left her behind. The ones who remained started giving her the looks of people who thought that it would have been better if she had died instead of her sister. There was even a proposal for all of them to head down the mountain together, but she couldn't say, "Don't go" or "Stay here," because she didn't have the power to protect everyone at all. As the last Uesugi family member, it was her duty to protect the seal everyone gave their lives for. But whether she'll be able to is giving her anxiety. There were times when she thought that if she became like her sister, it would all work out, so she ended up acting like her. That is why with that hair tie on, she felt that she could be lively all the time. Now that it is gone, she can't help but get anxious a bit, as if she can't face it by herself at all, and she hates herself when she is like this. Seeing how down Kiko is, Takeru comforts her by stating that he totally understands, as he was like that as well. He was constantly being bullied and wanted to change his life. He had the thought of being someone else every single day. However, it seems like Kikyo couldn't believe this at all considering Takeru looks so strong. So she asks just how he managed to change to become who he is now. With a wide sparkling smile on her face, Takeru went on to state his secret, and that is because he had people around him who accepted him for who he was. No matter what we think, we do come across some wonderful people at times we least expect. After that brief morning talk, Byoduin managed to notice how energetic Takeru was. Since he has already repaired the dojo roof, they can now start training anytime they want. But before anything else, Takeru tries to scold Byoduin for trying to agitate Kikyo the other day. And Byoduin's reason shocked Takeru a bit. It seems like Byoduin did it on purpose as he knows Kikyo is quite a lonely person. So she needs someone who she can easily pick a fight with, and he is willing to be that person. Takeru wasn't expecting to hear this from him, but since he now feels a bit guiltier for what happened, it seems like he plans to do what he can as well to make Kikyo feel a bit better. But there is no doubt that finding a hair tie is not easy after all. He doesn't even have the slightest clue on how to find it, which makes it a bit worse. Then all of a sudden Kikyo enters the scene, informing Takeru that when she entered his mind, she managed to fight against something evil inside of him. So he grabbed this chance to ask her if she happened to see if there was some other soul in there, but to his surprise, it seemed like there wasn't at all. Kikyo also thinks that two souls being in one body is just not possible at all. But this doesn't add up at all, since it is known that Kikyo has been fighting by having a spirit possess her. However, it seems like that is not the case at all, since she only borrows their power, so it's technically not a possession. In the case of a soul entering a body already with one present, the original soul gets ejected. So this made Takeru wonder just where the hell the original owner's soul went. Then out of nowhere, a fox appeared seemingly telling Takeru to follow him. And surprisingly, it seems like the fox found the hair tie he was looking for. Aside from that, it seems like the fox can talk to Takeru as well. But since this is not the first time Takeru has talked with animals, he went on to ask what the fox wanted him to do. Without hesitation, the fox went on to state that he wanted Takeru to protect Kikyo no matter what. This confused Takeru as he knew to himself that even if he didn't request his help, Kikyo was pretty strong already. But when he remembered what Byoduin told him a while ago, Takeru just went on to accept Mr. Fox's request. However, before anything else, he also asks Takeru to keep this all a secret as much as possible, as it may shock Kikyo a bit. Now that everything is already set, using transfer magic, Takeru got to where Kikyo is again. He immediately handed over her hair tie, and this made Kikyo cry a bit. Meanwhile, somewhere around the area, Tsubaki is seen looking so happy at the fact that Kikyo is no longer alone. Surprisingly, it seems like she was actually the fox earlier. Although protecting her sister was her duty before, it can't be helped anymore. That is why it is now in Takeru's hand. So if he happens to make her cry, she will definitely come after him no matter what. Since Kikyo clearly can't help him with this matter, Takeru decides to finally head back home in the meantime. But he does assure Kikyo that he will text her if there is any progress whatsoever. Before he leaves, Kikyo reminds him that even if an evil spirit possesses him, it is only a matter of time before his body will soon start to try and expel the foreign substance. Another soul can't continue to try and exert dominance over another for long. So at the very least, Kikyo thinks that Takeru is not the one who would need an exorcism at all. On his way back down the mountains, he starts contemplating what Kikyo said to him a while ago. According to her, it is weird that Takeru's soul hasn't returned. But did it go to somewhere else, or did it get extinguished? But no matter what it is, it seems like Takeru is back at the starting point. So for now, he should think of what to do next. Then all of a sudden, the ground started shaking, confusing Takeru as well as Byoduin back at the mansion. But surprisingly, it seems like Kikyo is rather calm about it. In fact, she even asks Byoduin to head back down the mountains as soon as possible. But since he insisted on staying and helping, Kikyo has no choice but to forcibly send him down. Although he appreciates the sentiment, Kikyo thinks that Byoduin will just get in the way. After all, this is a mission for the Uesugi family, so she should be the one to take care of it. After a while, Byoduin regains his consciousness after suddenly getting knocked down by Kikyo herself. He begged Anira, the sheep protector of Kikyo, which was given by her sister, to head back to Kikyo. But it seems like Anira has no plans on doing so at all since it was all Kikyo's orders. Along the way, they happen to come across Takeru. Seeing Anira full of wounds, Takeru immediately patches her up. Meanwhile, it seems like Byoduin is a bit shocked by the disrupted view in front of him. However, this is not the time to worry about it at all. Since Takeru was already here, he went on to ask him to take him back to Kikyo no matter what. But it seems like Byoduin can't do much about it anymore since Anira has decided to take him to a safe place no matter what. However, Takeru on the other hand started remembering what the fox asked him to do. Hearing that Kikyo is in trouble, Takeru starts to wonder if he should head back to the mansion now and help her himself. Then out of nowhere, the fox suddenly appeared, saying that it looked like Takeru needed a guide or something. So thankfully, she is here now to help him. Meanwhile, Kikyo is somewhere deep in the mountains, with her sister waiting for her. With such a mesmerizing smile, Tsubaki welcomes her sister, whom she wasn't able to see for a long time already. She started complimenting her for her hair, as it looked exactly the way she styled her hair before. Surprisingly, it seemed like the Tsubaki right here is not the same as the one Kikyo knew. This particular Tsubaki somehow teases Kikyo so badly, telling her that she lacks confidence from before till now. She even went on to state that she knows Kikyo has been lonely for a long time now, but there is no need to worry anymore since all of them will be together starting this day. However, it seems like Kikyo would not allow that to happen at all. Using her sword, she starts to chant her magic. Seeing Kikyo go made Tsubaki quite mad. Now that she confirms Kikyo has no plans on accepting her, then she has no choice but to bash in that prim face of hers. She even went on to warn her that no matter how much she cries, she won't stop at all. However, this doesn't scare Kikyo at all, as she is a real Uesugi, the one who will destroy the defiant god, for she is the incarnation of Bishamon, and she will make sure that she kills this demon no matter what before she can sully her sister any further. After hearing that Kikyo is in danger, Takeru immediately starts running towards the place where she is. Along the way, it seems like the fox starts getting a bit exhausted at the fact that Takeru is running faster than she is, even though she is supposed to be the guide for him. As much as possible, she tries to ask Takeru to stop running in front of her, as she doesn't have a meaning if she does. Aside from that, she is pretty sure that Takeru probably has no idea where to go anyway. Hearing this caused Takeru to stop running. Then he went on to reason out that he thought it would be fine if he went in the direction of the mana source. Without hesitation, the fox went on to state, this is why Takeru is so boring. Before they get out of topic, Takeru grabs this opportunity to ask the fox what this rampaging thing is at the source. It's a tad too strong to just be a simple monster. So the fox went on to state that if she was going to be specific, it was not technically a monster. Its name is Nataku. It is an entity that came to this world 1,000 years ago, through the dragon's veins. So technically, it is like a powerful demon. Hearing that this is a demon doesn't surprise Takeru at all. So this makes the fox wonder how Takeru even managed to know about them. Takeru then went on to explain that he doesn't know much about them at all, but he only knows that they exist. With that said, the fox went on to elaborately explain that it has been told from generation to generation in the Uesugi family that a soul from a parallel world's hells gets summoned into this one, and that for it to be able to move in this world, it needs an object, also called a yorishiro. Nataku has the power to interfere with the psyche of any living thing. It used that power to make it seem like it controlled the weather and the mountains. The people feared it as a god of the mountain, but their family used true divine power to seal it. But for some reason, the seal was undone 10 years ago. According to the fox, it seemed like the seal just got weaker over time and it didn't have its former power after so long, so they resealed it. However, even though that put the Uesugi family in a dire state, it was just too strong for them to handle. Hearing this finally made Takeru realize that this fox is none other than Kikyo's older sister, Tsubasa. Tsubasa then went on to explain that her body was snatched away by that demon, so she is only here in spirit form. But she is aware of the fact that as soon as Takeru sees her, she immediately realizes Takeru definitely has an idea as to who she is. Well, it seems like it was because she doesn't have any shadow at all. However, Takeru starts to wonder why she chose to be a fox instead of other spirits. As unbelievable as it may sound, it seems like Tsubasa decided to pick this form as it looks very cute from a human perspective, making Takeru laugh a little. But aside from that, Tsubasa went on to explain further that since those of Uesugi hold divine power, her body was just right as a vessel for the demon. Kikyo, on the other hand, holds the highest potential as a vessel of the strongest god. That is why there is no doubt that Nataku will be aiming for Kikyo for sure, in order for her to come back as a god once more. This made Takeru remember that demons usually are unbeatable. Even if one destroys the vessel that's holding them, it won't harm them because the soul is elsewhere. However, if the attack is with divine power, then the soul will be damaged as well. But even they with their power were only able to tie its soul down and seal it. But if Kikyo manages to finish this off in one go, there is a big chance that they'll win in the end. Speaking of which, Kikyo looks like she is trying her best to win this fight no matter what, and the demon Nataku can't deny the fact that Kikyo has quite improved over the years. When Kikyo almost finishes this all off, the demon suddenly acts as if she is all sad, causing Kikyo to remember her sister. Because of those strong emotions, the demon manages to get a hold of her within seconds. It seems like the demon has become quite adept at it, at using Tsubasa's memories as she is such a good vessel. When things have become worse than expected, Takeru suddenly appears out of nowhere to help. Since this is the first time Nataku sees him, she wonders just who this man is. But instead of introducing himself first, Takeru immediately went on to patch up Kikyo's wounds for now. Based on the looks of it, it seems like she is losing a lot of blood, so she needs to get to a doctor as soon as possible. But instead of worrying about her well-being, Kikyo keeps on apologizing for not being able to kill the demon and not fulfilling her promise to everyone. While this emotional scene takes place, Nataku can't take the fact that Takeru is really ignoring her after all the trouble he went through to get to this place. Since she can't help but ask him just who he is, she goes on to move forward, asking if he happens to be Kikyo's boyfriend or perhaps he wants to become her friend. But before she can even finish off what she is saying, Takeru immediately hits her with his fist effortlessly, sending her off meters away. Instead of worrying about the demon, Takeru is a bit worried that with his spell speed, he won't be able to heal her on time. Then not so long after, Tsubasa finally catches up, and seeing her sister like this makes her worry. So to somehow help her sister a bit, she went on to take her hair tie back. Since this is her gift to her sister, she plans on using this as a medium to pass along what little life force she has. But if she does that, then she would not be able to stay here anymore. So before anything else, Tsubasa reminds Takeru of their promise. That is why, although Takeru is not really good at fighting while protecting others, he has no choice but to do his best as this demon has already crossed the line. That is why he has no choice but to kill her right here, right now. Seeing Takeru fight, Tsubasa can't deny the fact that he has some amazing restorative power. So if it weren't for him, saving Kikyo would have been impossible. So before it was too late, Tsubasa went on to say everything she wanted to say to her sister. She went on to state that she wasn't such a bright personality from the start either. She had her moments of hesitancy at places Kikyo didn't see her at. Their parents died of an illness and she became the head of the family, so she had to meet everyone's expectations. As a result, she shelved her anxiety and tried to be as bright as she could. That is why she was envious of Kikyo, because she could show her emotions openly for everyone to see. If anything, it was a little depressing at times. But if Kikyo just knew that every time she calls her Ne-sama, it calms her down and lets her know that she is not alone. That is why she is grateful to her for giving her the strength to fight. No matter what happens, Kikyo is Tsubasa's most important and beloved family. That is why she has to save her no matter what. Meanwhile, it seems like Anira and Byoduin have finally reached the bottom of the mountain. Since there is no way Byoduin would be allowed to help Kikyo at all, he just leaves everything to Anira's care. As Anira makes her way back up the mountain, Byoduin on the other hand requests for backup to be sent to Niigata, the area of Yomotsurake. Although he feels bad right now not being able to do anything, he tells himself not to take it the wrong way at all, as he didn't become a hunter to get someone's approval. So just like Kikyo, he will beautifully protect everyone in his own way. Meanwhile, back to the three, as Tsubasa heals her sister, Kikyo goes on to reminisce that her sister was an incredible person from an early age. She was so supportive and happy, and that is why everyone loved her. So when she died, Kikyo was devastated at the fact that people around her wished it was just her who died, not her sister. At an early age, she started suffering emotionally all by herself. She was weak at heart. Even though she knew and understood that it wasn't like that, she couldn't help but view everything as bad. She really hated herself because of that. So she wondered about what she could do if she became like her sister, if she had powers like her. That is why she wants to be strong, since if she is not, then she would not be as competitive. That is why now that she has already done what she planned on doing, she can't help but feel a bit lonely about it. Tsubasa on the other hand looks really proud of her sister as she is now all grown up, but there is no denying that she is still a crybaby like before. Seeing the image of her sister makes Kikyo tear up a bit. As she went on to hug her older sister, she went on to state that she didn't have any reason at all and that she didn't know what she was supposed to get stronger for anyone. She was anxious and lonely at the same time, which is why she badly wanted to be like her sister. But she felt like she was still weak, which is maybe why she couldn't beat Nataku at all. So Tsubasa went on to suggest that it must be best if Kikyo conveyed important feelings like that directly. Meanwhile, it seems like Takeru and Nataku are having an intense fight at the moment, and Nataku looks rather tired and threatened by how powerful Takeru is. It seems like she wasn't expecting that someone like Takeru was going to show up. According to Tsubasa's body memories, there's only one person left out there who can wield divinity. So Nataku can't somehow accept the fact that after all that effort, in the end, all that Takeru can do is trap her in this flimsy seal. That is why she promises that once she gets out of this, she will definitely do her best to make sure Takeru suffers no matter what. Well, as it turns out, Tsubasa is also trying her best to defeat Nataku herself. As surprising as it may sound, Tsubasa's soul is still within her body. Well, it seems like Tsubasa has already thought of this since the beginning. This means Nataku is not going to get out that easily, as she will be stuck with her until the seal's done for. So they will now have plenty of time. A part of Tsubasa is sealed in her body as well, so she won't be able to move around a lot either. So as much as possible, she will tell Nataku all about how great her little sister is. She went on to start saying that even if a flower is about to wither, Kikyo won't abandon it and will take care of it until the end. Hearing this caused the other members to realize that Tsubasa is a better eater than he is. So there is no doubt that she will definitely be a big shot later down the line. Even if she disliked studying and kept running away, she would always come back and apologize for it. So to be more precise, she is an embodiment of potential. So if Nataku thinks that Kikyo is someone she can defeat that easily, then she is mistaken as the child will not lose against her at all. Hearing this caused Kikyo to get motivated a little. So Tsubasa went on to further state that she knows it has been difficult for Kikyo all this time, and she is sorry for making her carry the burden by herself. So it is fine if she doesn't emulate her, as Kikyo has her own unique strengths that only she has. The fact that she made it here is proof of that. That is why Tsubasa wants Kikyo to remember that they love everything about her that makes her the person she is. Now all that's left is for Kikyo to acknowledge herself. This made Kiko quite emotional, but there is no doubt that it indeed boosted her confidence a little. Since this will be the last time they'll see each other for now, Tsubasa hugs her baby sister so tight, saying goodbye, but at the same time she promises to look after Kiko even from afar. Now that things have gotten a lot more intense, Nataku is ready to go all in, but for some reason it seems like Takeru really amazes her. For some reason Takeru's power is out of the ordinary, as if he is far stronger than the strongest soldiers in this world. Then after a second or two, Kiko enters the scene, looking all well. Now that she has the energy and will to fight once more, she tells Takeru that she feels like she can accomplish anything right now, especially after her sister reminds her that she is strong because she is herself and nothing more. At this point, her power is so great that it is not easy to handle it, so in order to contain it, one needs a high level of resolve. As Kiko went on to start her attack, Takeru couldn't deny the fact that her power was indeed incomparable. Now that Kiko is already hyped up to end this fight once and for all, Takeru decided to step aside as she cast her spell to take down Nataku. Since the turn of events is not what Nataku has been expecting as much as possible, she tries to kill and stop Kiko from doing what she is doing, since for some reason, she is getting a bad vibe from her all of a sudden, as she is being threatened by something Kiko has. However, before she can even land a hit on her, Anira comes right in time, stopping her midway. Seeing Anira here surprised Takeru a bit, but knowing that Anira and Kiko have been good friends since they were young, and the scene was like something out of a movie scene. Nataku, who seems pissed off, already started stabbing Anira just to get out of her grip. But before she can inflict much damage on the poor creature, Takeru steps in to help the little girl. With one swing, Nataku ended up flying meters away. While she is still down, Takeru uses this time to help heal Anira's wounds. At this point, Nataku looks more frustrated than she usually is, but for some reason she can't understand why Takeru and Anira are willing to step away from Kiko, even if they know she is in a grave situation right now. Well, let's just say Takeru answered her with a proud smirk, indicating they don't need to go all in with protecting Kiko anymore since she herself is already in the mood to fight Nataku all by herself. As the scene continues to intensify, Kiko keeps her focus while Nataku looks a bit stressed about how things have turned out for her. Kiko went on to chant her last spells, in which the divine power of Aklanatha would be released. The power was out of this world. Nataku started to feel as if she was being torn away from Tsubasa's body, and it seemed like she was not wrong at all. The divine power Kiko just cast out caused a lot of changes in the atmosphere, causing Nataku to be forcibly taken out of Tsubasa's body. Now that she is outside, Takeru has finally got a glimpse of what Nataku really looks like. Without wasting a minute, Takeru immediately rushes to where Nataku is, planning to land a hit no matter what. At first, Nataku looks rather calm since all this time she thought Takeru's attacks would be futile, considering she is now in her spirit state. So normal attacks wouldn't technically work on her. Well, supposedly. But to her surprise, Takeru was able to tackle her down with just one blow, confusing her in many ways possible. While Takeru tries to beat her out into a pulp, she then starts to wonder just why is he able to touch her when supposedly he couldn't. Well, as it turns out, Takeru is actually using divine flames, which greatly works on demons like Nataku. On top of that, Takeru is no ordinary magic user as well. Since he excels very much at fire magic, it is safe to say that Nataku is feeling all types of pain right at this very moment. To make sure that this is the end for Nataku, Takeru holds her in place so that Kiko would be able to cast her deadly spell towards this stubborn demon. As they stand still waiting for Kiko to initiate the spell to end this once and for all, Takeru feels a sense of power scattering all over the place. Kiko, on the other hand, also feels the enormous power rushing towards her. So powerful that she is starting to feel like her whole body is about to creak. So if she's not careful at all, there's a high possibility that this power will leave her. As much as possible, she tries to concentrate all of her attention on building up this power. To help a little, she starts to think of an image where flames weave around a sword. Since she can only manage one swing in her current state, she needs to take into account Takeru's well-being as well. So although it may seem like an easy task, Kiko right now is feeling a lot of pressure since she cannot miss this hit at all. Considering if she does, there's a big chance Takeru would end up dying in the process as well. Aside from that, she is also starting to realize the fact that if it was her before this change, there's no way she would have been able to control this power at all. However, now that she is already confident with the power she has, she knows very well that it will be fine now, so as much as possible, she doesn't want to doubt herself anymore. With that eagerness and dedication to put an end to this chaos, with one big powerful swing, Kiko prays for the evil soul to be burned away. As the fire started engulfing the surroundings, the flaming heat started to heat up everyone's skin. In the process of casting this divine power from the heavens, the mission Kiko has been training for has now been fulfilled. Since Nataku has been taken down already, Takeru rushes over to Kiko to give her a hand, considering she looks super exhausted from all that casting a while ago. After that long day, they finally head back to the mansion, where Byodoin is waiting for their arrival. As soon as they got there, Takeru informed them that currently, the Hunter Association is working out how to manage the area there, but they would like Kiko to come to the headquarters first, which Kiko understands very well. Since there is so much to do, Kiko thinks that she has to look for a new place as well, so Takeru wonders if that means she would leave this place for good. With a smile on her face, Kiko answered the question straightforwardly, stating that it was already decided. From the start, she only remained here to look after the seal, but since that is gone now, she thinks it is fine to rely on outsiders to look after the dragon vein. Plus, it is unreasonable for one person to keep doing it. Now that the plan had been sorted out, Byoduin went on to excuse himself so that he could start packing their luggage, so Takeru went on to come with them as well. When the voice made its way back inside the mansion, Kiko started contemplating that at that time, she was confident that the attack would not reach Takeru at all. When Nataku was thrown out of Tsubasa's body, nothing else happened to her. Aside from that, Takeru also told her that she wasn't possessed by an evil spirit, but that only meant that she simply was not an enemy in his eyes. After all, good and evil are ultimately subjective, so she wonders if Takeru sees her as a good person or not. But instead of worrying about it right now, she tries to be more optimistic now than she was before. After all, if she keeps trying to be like her big sister Tsubasa, for sure her big sister would have troubles passing on. With that said, with a big happy smile on her face, Kiko is finally ready to live a life dedicated to being true to herself. Meanwhile, as Kiko and the others celebrate their unexpected victory, some of Nataku's subordinates seem to have a hard time believing that one of their strongest members actually lost. A person who seems to be their leader starts to wonder if there are humans who are aware of their actions and plans, or if they are just overthinking things now. So to ensure that everything still goes as they plan, the leader plans on looking into this matter more closely, just to ensure that they are on the safe side. So going back, it seems like Takeru is having quite a beautiful dream where he and the other kids are having a great time playing outside on the lawn. It was all good until he suddenly woke up, with questions flooding all over his mind. On the way to school, Takeru still couldn't believe that he actually had quite a weirdly realistic dream. In fact, rather than a dream, he feels like those were the real Takeru's memories. If he clearly remembers in the dream, Takeru was 5 or 6 years old. Now that he thinks about it, when he tries to learn about Takeru and was looking through the albums, he could not find a photo of Takeru that was before he was 6 years old. And according to his parents at home when they were moving in, his dad completely deleted all the data. And if Takeru remembers, Kiko did mention before that the body and the separated soul often find themselves wandering around places that they have a connection with. So in order for him to search for Kusanagi Takeru's soul, he might need to know more about his past. But for now, it seems he needs to take care of some things first. As he makes his way to school, Sakura calls him on the phone all of a sudden. Well, it seems like a small problem came up and Sakura would like to talk with Takeru about it. So in the politest way possible, Takeru went on to respond to Sakura's message. But what was waiting for him at school was something he was not expecting at all. It seems like after talking with the Hunter Association, it was later decided that Kiko would start working at the academy as a part-time teacher. This came as a surprise to the other students, but Takeru was not shocked at all, considering this was the first time in a long time that Kiko decided to come out to the public. So what more to do for her than teach as an S-rank hunter after all? After Kiko's introduction, the school also went on to announce that they have decided to let the academy participate in an exchange program with the Hoshimiya Academy. And as a result of that, an S-rank hunter named Saijo Keren will start to stay in the academy till the spring of next year, making everyone quite excited. After the ceremony, everyone can't seem to believe that 2 of the best S-rank hunters have shown up at their school, especially in regards to Hunter Keren. Saijo Keren is considered as the all-time best student at the prestigious Kansai Hoshimiya Academy, so her staying in the academy for a month seems like a dream come true to many. Knowing Takeru, Takuro went on to state that before Takeru lost his memory, he was quite the avid fan of Saijo Keren, which obviously came as a surprise to Takeru. Since they didn't have much time to talk about that topic, the two went to their separate ways. On his way home, Takeru came across Kiko and Sakura talking. Without hesitation, Kiko went on to call for Takeru, surprising Sakura a bit as she was not expecting the two would know each other at all. So out of curiosity, she went on to ask how the two even met. Subconsciously, Kiko went on to state that the two of them are indeed super close. So close that they even saw each other's naked body, aka the time Kiko accidentally took a bath while Takeru was still in the spring. Of course, Sakura got the wrong idea, so immediately the two tried to explain it properly. After clearing out everything, it seems like Sakura was able to get the two sides in the end. Now that it is settled, Takeru went on to ask Sakura what she wanted to talk about. Sakura immediately informed Takeru that after he destroyed the Ouroboros Guild, the top brass of the Hunters Association now knew about it. But based on Sakura's observation, the president himself settled the matter, and he seems to be investigating Takeru behind the scenes. So Sakura wonders if Takeru happened to know the president personally, since Takeru doesn't have the memories of the original Takeru. This made Takeru wonder how the Hunters Association president even knew him. Frankly, Sakura doesn't know what their intentions are. Since there are a lot of bad rumors too, this time 2 S-rank hunters showed up, So Sakura thought it was to monitor Takeru. So Kiko went on to state that she was not here for that, and she didn't hear anything. So to warn Takeru, she went on to state that her sister left the association because it was suspicious. That is why she only joined it to receive some help. So it is better if Takeru stays as careful as possible. Since they are talking about S-rank hunters who monitor Takeru, Kiko immediately thinks of Saijo, who was present at the ceremony earlier. As soon as they started talking about her, Saijo then entered the scene, surprising everyone, saying she was just waiting for everyone to finish their talk. Without wasting a minute, Sakura went on to ask Saijo if she came to this school to monitor Takeru, but since that was not the reason why she came, she immediately denied the accusations. But what she did next shocked everyone. She went on to hug Takeru, saying that she had always wanted to see him. Although she is aware of the fact that Takeru has probably lost his memory, she still wants to be with him. Hearing this intrigued Takeru, since he was really hoping to know more about the real Takeru. So even if it looks a bit absurd, he went on to ask Saijo to tell him more about his past. Saijo seems to be willing to do as Takeru asks her, but only on one condition, and that is if Takeru is willing to take her on a date. Since Takeru has no choice but to do as Saijo has asked of him, he now starts to wonder what he should do on a date anyway. These types of things are quite foreign to Takeru, considering he and Edelweiss just went shopping a few times before. But for him, that wasn't even a date at all. But since he can't do anything anymore, considering he wants to learn more about the real Takeru, he just wishes for the best. After waiting for a couple of minutes or two, Saijo finally arrives, looking chic in her casual but attractive outfit. As soon as she arrived, she immediately asked Takeru what he thought about her outfit, considering how much effort she put in so that she ended up getting that mature look. Even though it is a bit awkward for him to say, Takeru just went on to state that she looks good on it. Although he is not comfortable with how close Saijo is to him, he tries to keep his calm since this is the only way he will be able to know more about the real Takeru. As the two went on to go on with their date, the other guild happened to see them. This caused the others to wonder if Takeru was dating both Sakura and Saijo. If that is the case, he's indeed a legend. Although the guild wants to meddle with the two's lives, they eventually realize that is not good at all. Going back to Takeru and Saijo, it seems like the two have finally made it to the cafe. Since Saijo decided to act more mature today, she is contemplating if she'll get the new frappuccino or a stronger one. Seeing how much Saijo is struggling to choose her order, to help her a bit, Takeru went on to state that he'll also have the same one Saijo likes. Their date is going pretty well, and Saijo keeps on insisting to him to not talk so politely to her since it will cause a lot of awkwardness. Since they have finally started getting comfortable with each other, Takeru finally has the guts to actually ask Saijo just where they met. According to Saijo, there was a time when they were gathering kids with a high aptitude for mana, and it just happened that she and him met there and started to get along somehow. So this made Takeru wonder, did he really have that much mana before? Without hesitation, Saijo went on to state that he did. In fact, he had way more than her. But if everything Saijo says is true, why did the real Takeru allow Araki to bully him, even though he could have fought back? As the date goes on, Takeru starts to wonder just who the hell the real owner might be. After eating at the cafe, the two went on to lay down on some grass. During this moment, Takeru can't explain what he is feeling or what kind of situation this is. Since it looks like Saijo indeed misses spending time with the real Takeru, Takeru went on to apologize, saying that if she were here with the real Takeru, this would be a treasured memory. In the midst of their beautiful afternoon, a group of two unknown individuals started rushing towards them, planning to attack. But before things get out of control, Takeru was able to protect himself and Saijo on time. However, to his surprise, it seems like this was all Saijo's plan. It seems like Saijo has grown suspicious of Takeru since the magic he uses is more powerful than the average. So Takeru tries to explain that ever since his memory loss, he has somehow been able to use it. But Saijo doesn't take this for an answer at all. For her, even if Takeru has a high aptitude for mana, his constitution wasn't suited for magic at all. So there's no way the real Takeru could ever use any magic. Hearing this confused Takeru, but Saijo keeps on talking, saying that Takeru losing his memory wouldn't make any difference. That is, unless he became a different person with a magical quality that matches his body. So Saijo wants Takeru to give back her friend whom she loves the most, since if he doesn't do so, she won't forgive him at all. Now that Saijo is already furious, she doesn't hesitate to send a deadly attack on Takeru, and Takeru now doesn't know what to do. In the midst of this chaos, Takeru started to reminisce about the time he and Edelweiss were training his magic. Since Takeru keeps on failing again and again, Edelweiss reminds him that he can't do it at all when it comes to magic control. So Takeru starts to feel like at this rate, he won't be able to use these populated areas anymore. To cheer him up a little, Edelweiss tells him that she thinks it is because he has a lot of mana and it is making it difficult for him. So as a tip, instead of trying to hit the target immediately, Edelweiss thinks that Takeru should try to take into account the surrounding area first and try to keep it safe. Hearing this gave Takeru the idea of what to do next. Seeing him go makes Edelweiss quite happy.
and she remembers what other people have been saying, that people who are able to control magic really well are kind at heart. If it is Takeru, who is trying to save them, who are complete strangers to him, then it is safe to say that in no time, he will be able to make it happen. Remembering these good memories gave Takeru the strength to fight for his life. As Saijo's fire monster went on to start initiating his attacks, Takeru tries to repel his attacks with his power. While fighting, he tries asking Saijo to hear him out. However, it seems like Saijo has no plans in doing so at all. As the fight intensifies, Takeru tries his best to stay alive as much as possible. Seeing Saijo go, Takeru is able to notice that she is quick to attack, and it seems like she is used to fighting herself. Based on his observation, Saijo is using such a high level of magic, yet there is no visible damage to the surrounding areas. This means she has a delicate control of magic where only the intended targets gets damaged. The fire attribution is said to be really hard to control, but Hunter Saijo can freely control it as she wishes. That is maybe why she's also known for her prominence. Takeru knows that if just defeating her would settle this, it would be nice, but Saijo is thinking of Takeru and is angry. And since he knows that this is all his fault, Takeru just can't bring himself to attack her. So he starts to think about what he should do if he can't get her to listen to him. Seeing Takeru go increases Saijo's suspicions, since she knows that the real Takeru was never able to move like this at all, as he didn't have the reflexes for it. The real Takeru also wasn't able to use any magic. So although this man looks like Takeru, Saijo just knows that he is completely different. Just thinking about it makes Saijo feel like she is going to go crazy. In the midst of this chaotic fight, Saijo suddenly remembers the time she and Takeru were still kids. It seems like among all the other kids, Takeru is the only one who loves Saijo's firepower. Even if she hates her own flames, it seems like Takeru couldn't help but love them. This caused Saijo to feel a bit emotional. That is why since then, Saijo has done her best. She worked very hard so that this flame that burned Takeru once would not burn him ever again. So if that is really Takeru's body, then she is sorry, but she will never forgive anyone who tries to control the love of her life. That is why, although this is something she is trying to avoid, she has no choice but to use his flames to get that faker to leave Takeru's body. But before she ends up burning everything around them, Takeru jumps over her, pinning her to the ground. It seems like Saijo is already losing control over her magic. If she continues to increase her output, there's a big chance she will burn herself down. So as much as possible, Takeru wants her to calm down for now. To help her a bit, Takeru slowly pours some of his mana into her, while he takes control of her magic. But no matter what he does, it seems like the output is still increasing. Any more than this will end badly for Saijo. To calm her down, Takeru went on to state that if she really loves the real Takeru, she should stop forcing it out since this will only end badly. So to ease her mind, Takeru went on to tell the truth to her, saying that her speculations are not wrong since he is not the real Takeru. But this body that she is seeing is truly Takeru's, but he promises to give it back no matter what. However, despite this, it seems like Saijo has no plans to calm down. But Takeru, who has a lot of patience, assures her that it is okay. No matter what she thinks, he wants the real Takeru to return as well. The smile on Takeru's face reminded Saijo of their childhood. So even if it was a bit heavy for her, she started to trust Takeru little by little. After that, the control magic vanishes, and it seems like Saijo has got it under control before he is able to. Then out of nowhere, Saijo started crying all of a sudden. It seems like it is still hard for Saijo to accept that the person in front of her is not the friend she used to know. Since the beginning of their date, Saijo thought she was calm, but she wasn't able to handle it. It made her realize that it was not the right time to meet yet, and she starts to feel like she didn't improve as much as she had hoped. Now that the situation has become calmer than before, Saijo immediately went on to ask Takeru to tell her what is really going on, and just who the hell is he? After a couple of minutes of explaining, Saijo and her subordinates finally understand the situation. According to what Takeru has explained to them, he actually got summoned to an alternate world, saved it, and then died after. And it just happens that as soon as he woke up, he was already in Takeru's body. However, even if they can accept the fact that Takeru's story is true, just how can he prove that the body that he took over is actually Takeru's? Well, there is no definite answer to that, since it is not like he has access to the real Takeru's memories. If he comes to think of it, Takeru went on to inform Saijo that one of Takeru's friends mentioned that Takeru had always supported her since they were kids. So, even though the two of them were apart, the real Takeru kept track of Saijo's activities. Hearing this made Saijo blush since she wasn't really expecting that Takeru would think of her that often. Now that she is all hyped up, she is now willing to help Takeru to give her friend's body back. Although taking all of it in at once is too much for her, she is trying her best to believe in him as much as possible. So to help him a little bit, she will try to investigate this properly. But before anything else, she asks him for his real name. And to her surprise, he also has the same name as Takeru. But since that is the case, Saijo decided to just call him Takeru for now. It would be a pain to explain to others if she used his family name instead. Saijo then went on to ask if he had any ideas on how to return Takeru's body. Based on what he learned from Kiko, that the soul wanders in places they have an attachment to. Takeru tried looking into his past and even asked his parents about everything, but it seemed like he didn't have any good leads. That is why he would like to get close to her so that she could tell him more about the real Takeru. So to help him, Saijo tells him to head to this certain place at 10 in the morning the next day. As soon as Takeru saw the pin's location, he was shocked when he realized that this was crazy deep into the mountain range. Although a bit confused, Saijo tells him to trust her on this, since she will explain everything tomorrow. And as much as possible, she is hoping for him not to tell anybody that he is going there either. With that said, their date finally comes to an end, and as Saijo walks out to leave, she tells one of her subordinates, Sui, to investigate Takeru's circumstances one more time, as well as look into the disappearance of Yamato Takeru 40 years ago. The next day, Takeru finally made it to the place. So without wasting a minute, Saijo immediately takes Takeru inside, hoping that he'll regain some sort of memory. The whole place is in ruins and looks like it hasn't been used for years. As it turns out, it is actually a research facility, but it is also a place where Takeru and she were raised. This confused him, so Saijo went on to explain that since she was just a kid back then, she had no idea what they researched here. But when she was 7 years old, the Hunters Association conducted an investigation into this facility and closed it down. So all she knows is that they gathered people with high amounts of mana here, so she was hoping that he would have regained some sort of memory somehow. On top of that, she also heard that Takeru actually died when he was 6 years old. That is why when she saw him on the association's video, she was really surprised. So whether that body he has is really Takeru's or not, Saijo sort of got her answer when she was clinging to him at the park. After all, one can't fool one's sense of touch when it comes to memories. She then went on to continue with her explanation, saying that after the facility was shut down, kids like her who had no parents or relatives were put up for adoption by the association, and she thought Takeru was one of them as well. And since he didn't hear anything from his parents, means that he shouldn't trust them too much as well. At first, Takeru doesn't want to believe this at all, but Saijo goes on to make him realize that there is no way the association would allow someone to adopt one of their gifted kids to someone not trustworthy for the position. Although that might be real, Takeru just feels like his parents' love for him is true, so hearing this saddens him a bit. After all, once you start suspecting something, stopping becomes very difficult. When he was Yamato Takeru, his relationship with his parents wasn't good, but it is different for Takeru since he can really feel that his parents love him dearly. So if he lived a little longer and worked at it a little bit harder than Yamato Takeru, he wonders if he would have been able to see through people's emotions better. But since there's no point in thinking about it, right now what he needs to do is move forward. As they went deeper into the establishment, it seemed like monsters had also scattered around, maybe because the place had become run down. So as much as possible, he needs to be careful and not destroy it any further. As they fought each monster together, Takeru couldn't help but be amazed at how skillful Saijo was. It seems like she is able to match his movements even though she is used to being on the front line. And the fact that she is switching between support and attack is amazing as well. So there is no doubt that she indeed got that experience with fighting in a group setting, which is something he hopes he would learn in the long run. As the fighting continued, Saijo noticed that the monsters' numbers were a bit too odd. It seems like there was a large-scale gate break somewhere, so if they don't take care of it as soon as possible, it would definitely cause a lot of damage to the facility. Thinking that he has finally got to a place where he might get some sort of clue, he would try everything to make sure nothing stands in his way anymore. Surprisingly, they were able to take care of it in one go. As they start to roam around the facility again, Takeru's memories start coming back one by one. It's a memory she and Saijo shared. It seems like when they were kids, they both decided to bury a time capsule, and maybe that would be able to help him regain his memory. But before he can even check it out, Saijo calls for him since another monster has appeared. Thankfully, Takeru was able to take care of it with his weapon. At this point, Saijo starts to feel like she is barely able to keep up with him, even though she is literally the S-rank hunter here. Although she knows she should have reported everything about this to the association, she somehow feels guilty for setting Takeru up yesterday. So for now, she tries to keep her cool as much as possible. Although there is still a possibility that Takeru is her enemy, she just tries to be more considerate for now. While she is contemplating on the side, Takeru on the other hand wonders why he is seeing all these images all of a sudden. She wonders if these are Takeru's memories or if there's something Takeru wants to tell him. Since everything inside the information room is now nowhere to be found, as if their memories have been stolen from them, Takeru went on to ask Saijo if she happens to remember that they buried a time capsule before. At first, she was shocked to hear this since she wasn't expecting Takeru to remember anything at all. But then after he explained that he had been seeing images, Saijo started to remember something important. When they were looking for a place to bury that capsule, they happened to come across a door that led to the basement. However, a worker told them that it was a strange area for dangerous materials, so entry was restricted. So they ended up burying the capsule in the courtyard. With that said, before they checked on the capsule, Saijo decided to check out the basement first. As they get inside, she suddenly feels this cold air as if she is trying to find out something she is not meant to know. With every step he takes, it seems like she is starting to feel the heaviness of her past, as if her precious memories are crumbling away. Noticing this, Takeru assures her that no matter what happens, he will be sure to do something about it, so there is no reason for her to worry at all. As their conversation started to get a bit more chill and comfortable, a dark aura started enveloping the whole place. Immediately, Takeru went on to check on it. To his surprise, it seems like the demons that have been keeping their eyes on him are here as well. Even they didn't expect Takeru to be here. But since they are here now, Takeru feels like it is time for him to use brute force to make them spill everything they know.